Here we are. Hey, y'all. Jumping right in here. Welcome. Glad that you're here. Just getting started. Got my stuff loading right now, so we're getting going here. We got a great night coming up. Hey, Gretchen. Welcome. You're the first one here. Congratulations. Yes, absolutely. Here's my buddy, Side Pigeon. Thanks for being at Zoom yesterday, friend. It was good to see you. Nice. Missed you, Mel. Your presence is missed. Glad that you're here. Right on. I've got some good stuff for y'all today. I'm going to be playing for you an amazing teacher named Rupert. I can't remember his last name. Rupert. Shoot. Well, we'll get to it. But I was sent a video of his, and he explained to a child why time doesn't exist when you dream and what the now is. And he explains this to, they don't show the child, but I think the child is probably about 7, 8, maybe 10. Brilliant. It's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Hello, Power of Love. Welcome. Great picture there. Nice, beautiful couple there. Nice. Hey, Clueless. Good afternoon, Zensters. You guys have the best names. I should tell you guys why I have the term, or I have the name Just Chuckin' for my X profile. And that's actually a combination of the name Justin and Chuck. I was going to start a cannabis seed company years and years ago with a friend of mine named Justin, and we were going to call it Just Chuckin' Seeds. How great is that? So that's where it comes from. Back in the day when I had all these plans and I was going to be so successful and everything just blew up in my face. Hello, Stacy. Welcome. Glad that you're here. But I've never told anyone that story, so you guys are the first to know. Congratulations. Evenzo Zaccardi, very nice. Big hugs to you, friend. Nice daisies there, friend. XZ Drift, nice. Hello? Hello? Hi, Miss Redhead. Welcome back, love. It's good to see you. What's up, Cadillac fans? Pablo, you never quit. Nice. I'm looking forward to testing this next week. It should be exciting. Hello, Canadian Crown. Oh, look at the pup. Oh, I remember that little dog. Sweet. Great little dog there. Great looking dog. Hi, Bill. Welcome. I got a treat for you guys today. I probably should get going here in a minute. I got about another 5 before I need to start it. Nice. Hey, Heather. I used to, if this is the Heather that I'm thinking it is, her dad was one of the pastors of EV Free back when my father was the pastor of EV Free way back in the 70s and 80s. And Heather's dad, Ed, was a great guy. Yeah, great guy. And I rode to school with Heather, let's see, with my first, second grade teacher, 3rd grade teacher. And way back in the day, Heather and I carpooled together. So very cool. Small world. Awesome. Hello, Mother Nature, 77. Nice. Like the labyrinth. Very cool. Bob, buddy, it's good to see you. Missed you on Zoom yesterday, buddy. Great to see you again, man. Glad that you're here. Hey, Obi. What's going on? Hope you're well, my friend. Save your seeds. Heck yeah. Hi, Verbal. What is going on? Nick is a psyop. Okay. We will keep our eyes on Nick. We're going to chuck and roll. You guys are going to come with the funniest names, I swear. Greatness. Hi, Cindy. Hello. Hi, Shan. Welcome, buddy. Good to see you yesterday on Zoom. I thought Zoom went really well. Very, very nice. Yeah, we did. True that. We also rode the bus together. Very true. Very true. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Always love the good vibes from a fellow drummer. Heck yeah. You know, to be honest with you guys, I just don't get that involved with the media stuff. I just look at media for a general picture of things, but I don't get caught into any one story or any one thing. Hey, how's it going, Spaz? Very cool. Okay, let's get going here. I've got a great little prelude for you guys. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I open with this incredible teacher that explains a few things about time. And then if I feel like it, I'm going to say a few things about the mind and time after it's over. So this is about 23 minutes. And then I will see you guys just after the hour. We'll see you soon. Got some good stuff coming.
Sense of time when we're sleeping.
Why do we?
Lose sense of time when we're sleeping.
Why do we lose sense of time when we're sleeping? Try now. You understand what I mean by now. Yeah. And if we represent the past, we could imagine that the past is like a vast space that extends endlessly behind the now, and that the future is a vast space that extends indefinitely in front of the now. Yes. And the distance between the past and the future is what we call time. Yes. Or the distance between two events in the past or the future. So now let's explore time, the past and the future. So now just for a few moments, leave the now and visit this place that you call the past. When I say visit it, I don't mean just think about it or imagine it, because if you think about it, say you take the image of breakfast this morning. That image doesn't take place in the past. That image takes place now. So I don't mean just think about the past or imagine the past. I mean go there. Leave the now, just step out of the now and go into the past.
That's not possible.
Okay.
Because if I try to step into the past, that effort is happening now.
Exactly. So can anyone here, just while we're discussing, can anyone here step out of the past and just step out of the now and visit the past, just for a few moments? No. Can you imagine, Alexander, that anybody that has ever lived, not just us kind of weirdos that are interested in non-duality, but regular people that could you imagine that any of them could, just for a few moments, step out of the now and actually go to the place that we call the past?
No.
Okay, so if nobody's ever been there, and presumably the same applies for the future, yeah? So if nobody has ever been there, how do we know that this place called the past really exists? Surely experience must be the test of the existence of something. So if nobody's ever been there, nobody's ever got a glimpse of it, how do we know it's there?
We don't really.
We don't.
No.
We don't know it's there. We imagine it's there, but we don't know it's there. We have no knowledge of it at all. Could it be that it's not there?
Yes.
And wouldn't that be in line with our experience? In other words, could it be that the past and the future don't exist in the way that our minds imagine them?
Yes.
After all, have you ever experienced anything apart from now?
No.
And how many nows have you experienced in your life? Or let's just take today. How many nows have you experienced today?
That's a trick question. One.
One. Yeah, so all your life, you're only going to experience one now. Yeah.
Yes.
And that now, we've already discovered that, contrary to popular belief, the now is not this fraction of a moment sandwiched between these two vast spaces of the past and future. The vast spaces of the past and future aren't there. So now is not a moment in time. We normally think that the now is moving slowly through time. Yeah. How fast is the now moving through time in your experience? It's another trick question.
It's not moving.
It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. It hasn't come from anywhere, and it's not going anywhere. So this now is the only now there is. And this now is not a moment in time. How long does this now last?
It's eternal.
It's eternal. And you understand that by eternal doesn't mean everlasting in time. It means ever present now. So if we're just simple and we just stay with the facts of our experience, time is never experienced. Time is what the now looks like when it is filtered through our mind. In other words, time, it doesn't exist in our mind, it seems to exist in our mind. And therefore, if that's the case, wouldn't it make sense that when our mind disappears in sleep, the seeming existence of time disappears with it?
Yes.
That's why we don't experience time when we're asleep. Actually, we don't experience time when we're awake, but we seem to. But when we're asleep, we don't even seem to experience time because no mind is present in sleep. So that's why you seem to wake up in the same moment that you fall asleep, because there is no time in between two waking states or two dream states.
Okay. That's confusing, but it makes sense.
It's confusing, but it makes sense.
No, it's confusing, but it makes sense.
It's confusing, but it makes sense. Yes. Yes, it's... Exactly. It's confusing because because everything that I've said you've understood in your own experience and you've agreed with, and it's very simple what I've said if you just stick with your experience. But when we compare that with the way reality seems from the point of view of the mind, it conflicts with the mind's view of reality. So it is the mind that superimposes its own limitations on reality and makes reality appear in a way that is consistent with those limitations. Just as I said this morning, if you put on a pair of orange sunglasses when you're skiing, you very quickly forget that you've put the glasses on and the snow appears to be orange. You think the snow is orange. The snow is appearing in accordance with the limitations or the colouring of your glasses. But because you have forgot that you are looking through this limited medium, you think that the orange color belongs to the snow. Now, each of our minds is a limited medium. Our minds are the orange glasses, but the orange color is time and space. That's the tint of our minds, time and space. So when consciousness looks through the time and space glasses of our mind, it sees a three-dimensional, a four-dimensional world, 3 dimensions of time and 1 dimension of space. And we think time and space belongs to the world. No, it doesn't.
In the West, we inherit the idea of law from those ancient conceptions of God, and it is even passed down into science, where we discuss laws of nature. But one recognizes more and more in the sciences that what we call laws of nature are simply observed regularities in the way things behave. And you, in order to observe regularities, you must look at things through something regular. That is to say, you must lay a ruler alongside them, or compare their behavior with the regular behavior of a clock. But clocks and rulers are human inventions. They are regular measures which we use for comparing the rates of change. Say, a clock is a measure of a rate of change. It's quite arbitrary. But we very easily compare our regulation measuring devices with what makes things happen, as if the sun rises because it's 6 in the morning. Now that's being completely backwards in one's thinking. And we get into the same confusion when we imagine, for example, that money is wealth. Here we have fantastic wealth, you know, and we have the technological possibility of making everybody on earth the enjoyer of an independent income. We can't do it because people say, where's the money going to come from? Because they think money makes prosperity. It's the other way around. It's physical prosperity which has money as a way of measuring it. But people think money has to come from somewhere, like hydroelectric power or lumber or iron, and it doesn't. Money is something we invent, like inches. So you remember the Great Depression? When there was a slump? And what did we have a slump of? Money. There was no less wealth, no less energy, no less raw materials than there were before, but it's like you came to work on building a house one day, and they said, sorry, you can't build this house today, no inches. What do you mean no inches? No, just inches. We don't mean we got inches of lumber. Yes, we've got inches of metal. We've even got tape measures. But there's a slump in inches as such, you see. And people are that crazy. They can have a depression because they've got no inches to go around, or no dollars. That's all a lot of nonsense. But you see, because we get thinking backwards, making the metaphysical tail wag the dog, making the law rule things, whereas it doesn't. It's merely a way of measuring what happens. And so you see, when you get into Buddhistic thought, you don't get that confusion. You're the other way around. So you're looking at a system where, to go back to the Buddha's words, this arises, that becomes, which is a way of saying, you can't have this without that. You can't have here without there. You wouldn't know where here was unless you knew where there was. And they come into being together. You don't get first here and then there, or first there and then here. These arise interdependently. That's the meaning of interdependent origination. And to grasp the idea of interdependent origination is as important as the idea about seeing how things are related by space and intervals. And seeing, therefore, that you tend to look at life from a myopic point of view, and see details, see the trees and not the forest, see yourself as something loosely related to everything else that's going on and not integral to it. You see the figure but ignore the background. But the figure and the background arise mutually. They are to each other as this is to that. And so we really have to rid our brains of the notion of causality. The notion of causality being that present sets of circumstances are the result of past sets of circumstances. And that therefore certain events which are called causes are responsible for following events called effects. And all this is an enormous piece of mumbo-jumbo. Because what is not seen and what is not clear in thinking that way is that in physical nature there are no separate events. This is startling to people. But it's really quite easy to see that there are no events in nature. Because you can ask very simply, let's take something called an event. How do we demark it from other events? At what point, shall we say, were you born? Were you born at parturition? Or when the doctor slapped you on the bottom? Or cut the umbilical cord? Or when you were conceived? Or when your father and mother were first attracted to each other? When was it? When did you begin? There's no way of deciding except arbitrarily. And for legal purposes, we say you were born at parturition. And that's when the astrologer casts your horoscope, except that other astrologers disagree and want the conception time. And say that's the real beginning. There isn't a real beginning. It goes back and back and back in an inseparable continuity. When are you dead? That's another big argument. And you can get all kinds of ideas about that. So once you see that an event is a term in an intellectual calculus, calculus being the way of measuring, say, curved formations by reducing them to point instants and counting it, you see? But actually, the point instants are imaginary. The curve wiggles along, and it doesn't stutter from point to point. But in calculus, you make it do that. So, just as there are no point instants in the curve, so there are no events in nature. Nature is a constantly fluctuating pattern. You can only designate particular wiggles in a pattern arbitrarily. You can count a convex formation as one wiggle, or a concave formation as one wiggle. Then you decide if you call it one way, if you give the convex properties the title of wiggle, you have to deny it to the concave properties. And vice versa. So when you see that what we call separate events don't exist, it becomes nonsense to speak of one event causing another. What you really mean is that the two events which you speak of as being causally related are simply two parts of the same event. They go with each other in the same way as this with that. The relationship is not causal. It is mutual. And it works two ways in time, because so-called future events are not merely passive to past events. But you could easily see when, for example, any biological process goes on, you can reason just as well from the future to the past as from the past to the future. Why do two mammals have sexual intercourse? Well, it isn't just that they enjoy it. It's also that they're a very complex system which does this because it makes babies. And the prospect of baby works in reverse and creates desire. You can reason that way, or it's silly, because the whole process is one. And when we speak humanly and purposively, I am going downtown to buy groceries, then a future event could be said to be the cause of why you're now starting out to get into the car, buying groceries. And the difficulty we have in seeing this to be so is that we think in an either-or way, which is what is called dualism in Hindu Buddhist thought, and that liberation is being free from dualism. So when you think in an either-or way, you see the figures in the background as moving, and therefore being responsible for their action. But if somebody argues the other way round, say the figures are just following lines of force in a field, gravitational principles say, we're all human beings, you see, we're all concentrated on the fact that we're individually rushing around and doing this and that. But we don't see that we're equally sucked, and that we move around in response to all sorts of stimuli. But neither position is adequate. You have to see that our being sucked by all sorts of stimuli is exactly the same thing as our apparently voluntary and deliberate action. Because what we're looking at is not this Newtonian game of billiards, where balls roll because they are hit by cues. What we're involved in is a dance where, for example, watch a snake. When a snake swims, there's nothing more beautiful than watching a snake swim in water. Lovely motion. But you see, it wiggles along, and its wiggle is conceivable, you see, as convex, or was it concave? This way, and that way, and this way, and that way. Now, which side of the snake moves first when it wiggles? So it's very easy to see there. Now, when we interact with the world, what moves first? Who starts it? The objective world or the subjective world? But they are related as this to that. You can't have an object without a subject, or a subject without an object. You can't have something known without the knower. And that gives the show away. There isn't any real distinction between the knower and the known. There's two ways of looking at something, yes. Two poles of a single process. But the knower and the known are subsumed as the knowing. And all life is knowing. Being, becoming. And it isn't something, in other words, that works by the idea of all this happens because someone shoves it. Now you see, the idea all this happens because someone shoves it is basic to Western thinking. There is the Lord God who's the boss, and he sloshes this universe into being and shoves it and sets it going. And you better obey that shove, because he's introduced into it some recalcitrance by giving to human beings what the Hebrews call the Yetzer Hara, the wayward spirit, so that they shall be able to play certain games on their own. Because nothing very interesting would happen if everybody obeyed God. The whole world would be like a lifeless thing, you see? So they had to reason that into it in order to save face for God, practically. Because otherwise he could be blamed for all the catastrophes that happened, instead of our being able to say to each other, well, it's our fault.
There we are. Hey, welcome everybody, welcome. I'm really bummed right now because I was supposed to be on Facebook, and right when I was trying to get all this stuff together, StreamYard decides to tell me that they're going to charge me more to be able to post to Facebook. So I'm going to have to go and explore that. I didn't know anything about that, so I'm sorry. Not on Facebook right now, unfortunately. I thought I would be, but we'll get to that next week. We've got some good stuff coming today. Did y'all catch Rupert talking to the child, explaining the now, a couple of things came up in the media assets, or I should say in the comments. So this is what I want to make sure that y'all grasped from that, because it ties directly into the kind of thing that we're studying right now, which are all these contradictions that come out of the East, that come out of the philosophy of the East. Just like the West has contradictions, the East also does, but it's in a different realm. It's a different kind of contradiction. Okay, so what he was trying to explain to the child was that time only exists in your mind, and your mind doesn't exist. Okay, you can't hand somebody your mind. It's not an object, it's not a subject. It doesn't exist. And so because time does not exist in the universe, it only exists in your mind. And so when you talk about the now, you're not talking about time. The now doesn't fit into time. You don't have a now and then lag, and then a now and then lag. There is a ever-present now, like a horizon. Now this ties directly into time travel, but I wanted to make sure, first of all, that you understand that time doesn't exist, and it is simply an applique, a veil that your brain, that your mind puts on the natural world. But the natural world is timeless. It's an eternity. It's an ever-present now. Now this gets into time travel. Now, as you guys know, in Project Looking Glass, when they were trying to move through time to see where we were going, what the destiny was, they hit a wall in 2012. And what was the common theme of this wall was that basically everything just sort of blurred out. There wasn't any focus. And to me, this really substantiates the point that time doesn't exist, and that there is such a thing called free will, and that we have it. And that because there's this thing called free will, the future always remains in a state of unknown. It's a potential. Now you can travel and in your mind forward in time, and the potentials of the earth, the potentials of society and the collective will very well manifest for you. Okay? But your body is not going there. Your mind is going there, because time doesn't exist. If you go back in time, you certainly can observe and see, like they have, and there are people that have done this. But the past is dead, in the sense that there is no more free will. Free will has been exercised. So there's a place called the Akashic Field, and there are different timelines for the different realities that all coexist, commingle at the same quote unquote time. You see, but none of these things are in time. None of these things are taking place in time. Okay, so when they were doing the Project Looking Glass, it wasn't their body that was going forward and backward in time. That's why you can't go back in time, kill your grandmother, and cease to exist. Can't do that, because the past is already decided. You can go observe it, but your body is not there. You're not taking place in that space. Your brain is in the Akashic Field somewhere. But your physical body is not there back in time. It's your mind, and your mind doesn't exist. And so this gets real important when you start talking about Eastern Zen and you start talking about the Eastern spirituality, because they don't think in references or terms of time. Whereas think about the West. The spirituality is obsessed with time, obsessed. Because this documents and substantiates the belief, because all Western spiritual systems are not faith systems, they're belief systems, which why they're so obsessed with time and so obsessed with specific events and specific people that actually lived and actually took part in these different mythological events. See, the West wants that concrete in time grasp of the world, and it doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. Okay, so in order to then maintain a sibilance as we walk into Zen and we continue our walk into Zen, you'll do yourself a huge favor and take enormous leaps in your awareness if you join into this kind of thought of that time is just an application. The now is eternal. There is no specific place or moment of the now. It's just an unfolding. Okay, that will definitely help open things up. Okay, let's go to comments and see if you guys have any questions. Okay. Okay, Stacy, what'd you say here? Add to the fact that since each person perceives from their own filters of mind that the past you think of is a lie, your own lie of the past. Yeah, in many ways, it's just your perspective. I don't know if I'd call it a lie, but it's your perspective. It would be a lie if you were to say that my past and the way I see things is the only correct way. Well, then that's a lie. That would be a lie. That's what religion does. How can you prove this, Chuck? You see, that's the thing. Life is a wonder. You can't substantiate a wonder. So what we try and do is we try and loose the wonder that is the now, right? We try and loose that from concepts. See, but we're that's oxymoronic, because in order to talk about it, we have to conceptualize it, you see. And so to prove that time doesn't exist would be an attempt to prove that time does exist. Do you see that? And so the idea is to approach these things from sort of a faith standpoint, whereby you can't fully grasp it, but you can kind of get an idea of it without tying it into a concept, without tying it into a finality. And by loosing yourself from time, you see, you open up your opportunity for what you can perceive. Excuse me, because you're not trying to get the history in your head to become, you're not trying to get nature to become that history, to become that finite, you see? And so it's not going to be a kind of thing like they like in the West, which is prove it to me, give me all the substance so that then I can put all my belief into the substance that you just given me. And you see, there's no substance in a wonder. There's no substance in an illusion, and we live in an illusion. I'm an illusion. You're an illusion, because I'm only in your brain, and I only see me in my brain on this screen. But my mind, your brain doesn't exist. Neither does mine. You see, so all of this is illusory. Does that make sense? It removes that. You see, this is it here. How does deja vu happen? Because time, remember, there's free will, and we're engaging that free will. I mean, it's your free will to be here right now. You chose to turn on your computer, your phone. You click the link to come here and to see me. That's all your free will, and you're engaging this illusion, right? But you've made that decision now. If you went back in time and watched yourself, you would see yourself making those decisions. Well, then the free will, you've exercised it. And so then that goes to the Akashic record, you see? And the Akashic record is a depot, you could say, where all of these different timelines, all these different realities are placed into a field of reference that can be accessed which we access all the time when you leave your body, when you travel outside of your body. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with clocks. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with clocks. Just like, see, look at this. And we're going to talk about this tonight in Zen, but understand that a clock is a reference, obviously, for time, and it's beautiful in that sense, in its reference. Even though time doesn't exist, even though it's tracking something that doesn't exist, the mechanics of it, the sound of it, the shininess of it, the noise, the what it does, these are beautiful. And it's the same with you. Just because something is an illusion doesn't mean it doesn't have qualities that are impactful. You know, calling life an illusion, saying time doesn't exist, that's not denouncing those things. It's just simply proclaiming just a wider view of them. But it's not saying, well, time is BS and I never want to have anything to do with it because it doesn't exist. It's illusory. That's not the point here. The point is to just simply understand that time is a manufactured idea. It's a conception. It's not real. And so don't tie nature into time. You see, don't force it into a specific way, because there are many ways and there are many specifics, because we're in a wonder. You see, it's funky like that. It's contradictory like that. And we're just to enjoy that. Okay, here, this is a good question. Here, if reincarnation ceases to exist, does time cease to exist? Okay, remember, Mother Nature, time doesn't exist. It doesn't need to cease. There's no time to cease. You see? And reincarnation, if I understand this correctly, the reason why people reincarnate and come back to this planet is that they don't understand who they are and that they have free will. And that when you die, you have choices. You're not just going to go. You have free will. You can go and do whatever you want. And you have to realize who you are to be able to exercise those qualities and characteristics about yourself, or you won't even know to exercise them because you're ignorant of that. No putting anybody down. That's why it's important to become aware right now, so that when you die, the choices that come upon you, like the options that you have, you will make the wisest decision possible because you have free will. And so when you die, there's so many people that have said this now, you don't go into the light. You don't go into the glow where all of your family and friends and everybody are all calling you, because that's a trap to reincarnate you. And so if you go towards the light, if you're attracted to it and you hear your friends or you see your family in the light and you think, oh, I'm going to go there, and you go into that space, that's your freaking free choice. You've chosen to reincarnate and come back to the commonalities, the people you knew, the vibrations and relationships that you had established, the common home feeling themes that will suck you into that illusion, because this is an illusion. And so when you die, when you leave this meat trap, this body of yours, your spirit doesn't have to come back here. But if you're ignorant, you will. And you certainly, if you want to, you can. If you got unfinished business, if you feel like you lived your life and you've lived the life of what could have been, and you look back and think, if I'd have done this different, this different, this different, this, I would have liked my life so much more. It would have been so much better, the case may be. You can come back and do it again. You give another shot. You're not under some kind of requirement. You're on a meriting system. Just how much awareness have you merited in your life? And that is going to serve you. Why wouldn't it? That is going to serve you when you die. Or what's the point of life? Yeah, the near-death experience. Great question. Near-death experiences is just that. You almost were to the point where this meat sack that you're in didn't come back. And when this meat sack goes, your soul leaves, your animating principle, that which animates the universe also animates you, and that leaves this dead meat suit when you die. No, you absolutely should not go into the light. No, do not go into the light. Absolutely not. It's a trap. It's a trap. This is why there's been a stagnancy on this planet. One of the reasons why is because people have gone into light. They think that it's heaven. They think that glow and all their family calling them from the glow, and they start to see into the glow and fall into the glow, and they're seeing family and friends ahead, and they think, I'm going to heaven. I'm going. And all they're doing is they're going right back in the trap. You're going to go right back here. You'll reincarnate and come back here. You're not going to go to your true home. Okay. Any questions, or we want to get started on the Zen? Yeah, don't go into the light. Where do we go then? Okay, you go into the universe. That's your home, Linda. Your home, Linda, is the universe. That's your home. That's where you go. Right, exactly. Exactly. It's a trap. It's a trap. Religion is a trap. Yes, the Vatican is a trap. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a trap. It's a trap. Religion is a trap. It's a mind trap. It traps your mind into the world the religion hands you. And when you're caught in a religion, you're caught in that trap because your mind can't escape the thoughts, the assumptions, the conclusions the religion hands you. Because the Bible isn't asking you questions. The Quran isn't asking you any questions. They're telling you. They're trying to remove your free will so that you will simply believe what the religion tells you. Yes, you go into the darkness. That's your home. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're welcome, Linda. Of course, you're welcome. It is. Bob, you're exactly right, Bob. We are so much better when you're around, Bob. You're exactly right. It's an archon deception. You're exactly right, Bob. You're exactly right. You bet, Linda. Yes, it is. And it's always been evil. The Pope is evil. The Pope kills children. The Pope, it's terrible. Chuck, what happened to your X account? I can't find you there anymore. I'm there, I promise. I'm there all the time. It's under, here, I'll type in the reference. It's at just chuckin' 2. That's me. Here, I'll even highlight it here. That's me. Just chuckin' 2. And if you go back to the beginning of this video, I explain what that just chuckin' means, which is fun. Yeah, that's normal. That's because religions are cults. They're like the mob. And when you leave, you can't be trusted anymore. You've left the circle of trust. It's like the mob. And so you can't leave and keep all your friends and keep all your family in the West. You can't. You can't. All of those things will be compromised because the Western religion is a mob. It's a mob. It's a cult. Okay? And so that's why when you leave the religion in the West, you're ostracized because you've left the cult. You've left the circle of trust. You can't be trusted anymore. You've left the circle of trust. And because you don't believe like your friends and family anymore, and you don't think like your friends and family anymore, you get rejected or you get ostracized. It's just like, okay, good for you. You're just going to be the prodigal and I'll pray for you. And maybe someday you'll come back. It's that kind of thing because it's a mob. You can't leave. There's no exit strategy. You can't leave and keep your life normal. You're going to lose all your friends and family. That's why people don't leave. One of the big reasons they don't leave. It's a trap. Okay. Archons are ruling figures that travel through different dimensions. They're not tied into a dimension like this meat sack we live in. They're not tied in like that. They're between layers. And so they can move in and out of layers. And so they have tremendous power and they have affected our development. We have been taken by archonic ploys called egregores. And we believe the egregores. We believe the archonic negative energy. And because we believe in that energy, we reinforce it. We lower our own energy because you become what you believe in. When you believe that you're a sinner, when you believe that you're fallen, when you believe that you're separate from God, you take on the wake of those beliefs. It's called it's called living a life of anti-faith when you live a life of belief. Yeah, good for you. Way to go, Mindy. Very proud of you. That was the right thing to do. That was the right thing to do. Yes, he does. Yes, you can't be a pope without killing kids. You can't. Right on, April. Yes, I love the Amish. I love them. Great people, lovely people. But understand, they're in a cult. Understand, they only believe in a very small world that the Bible handed to them. And we know that the Bible is a psyop. We know that. It was made, it was edited by the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church has always been a pedophilic institution. They've always been satanic. Where is the best place for Lucifer to hide? In the last place you would ever look for him. Where's the last place most people would ever look for Satan, for Lucifer? At the Catholic Church, at the Vatican. But that's his home. That's where Satan lives. He lives at the Vatican, in case you're wondering where his hub is on the earth. It's at the Vatican. Chuck, I came out today publicly, and I think so many of the people that know me are going to be rather confused. What do you mean you came out today publicly? You mean you told them you weren't a Christian? Or what does that mean? Are going to be rather confused. Okay, just so you know, Shan, if your friends didn't know that you had left Christianity, just expect the relationship to totally change. Some people will totally reject you. Some people will still love you, but they're going to pray for you because you're a prodigal. You've left the circle of trust. And so it changes the relational dynamic that you share with your friends who are Christians. Okay. Yeah. Good for you, biker chick. You should check out my Rosicrucianism series. Deals a lot with the Western religion and where it comes from, and Hermeticism and alchemy and alternate options for the West. And then also my nature series offers alternate spiritual considerations. One of the things that happens when you leave Christianity is just like, well, who do I worship now? That was one of the things I struggled with when I left. Who do I worship now? Who do I pray to now? How do I have a spiritual relationship kind of thing, because you only know how to do it, quote unquote, the Christian way. And so some of the videos that I've done, the series that I've done, have been very specifically designed to address that, to address the individual who has left whatever religion they've always been in and then considers a different way to go, a different spiritual consideration. What's a larger spiritual perspective than the small religious one that I've always been a part of? And so my video, especially my nature series, goes into that. Yeah. Good thought here. Hi, Jonah Curry. Go into the darkness because you are the light. Then you can navigate the darkness with your light, and power, create, and imagination are important. Yeah, yes. There's no words for it, but I've watched a number of testimonies of people who deal with near-death experience folks, and I've listened to interviews of folks who have interviewed thousands of people that have had near-death experiences, and that's the common theme. The common theme is that there's a white light. There's a distant white light, and it's like a pulling sensation. And it has the sounds of people that you knew when they were alive. It has the feelings that you got, like when you first asked Jesus into your heart, when you first became a Christian, when you first became an Islamist, when you first made your first prayer or said your first prayer, right? And it has that familiarity. And so when the person dies, they think that's heaven, that light That's heaven. And if I'm going to go there, because they think, I mean, they hear Jesus's voice coming from it. It's a trap. It's an archonic trap. And so what the interviews have said is that you came from another place in the universe to be a part of a beneficent movement to basically aid in the transition of the human collective into a what would that be, a eternal species. So we would transition out of the trapped narrative that we're in, and we would move into the eternal essence that we were before we were captured. And so there's a theory, and I don't know if I subscribe to it, but there's a theory that each of us, especially people who are quote unquote light workers, those souls apparently incarnated here to assist in the transition. And so the idea is that once the transition has begun, or that person has served their role, like let's say the Buddha or something, when they die, they've fulfilled their role here, and they return to that which they came, whatever universe, whatever galaxy, whatever that you came from. And that the transitioning phase is right now. It's been going on for probably hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, where we've gone from this trapped phase to now this aware phase. And we're in that phase right now of transition, you see. And so when you die, the idea is that you go to where you originally came from. You just simply think. You just simply go to that space, because you don't go to the light. You don't go to that trap. And so you move your spirit, which is timeless, no form or anything. You just return home. That's the theory. That's what I've heard repeatedly. You just return home. It's up to you. It's up to you if you want to come back. You're free. You're free. You don't have to come back if you don't want to. You're free. You're not trapped. You're not trapped. Yeah. DMT is released at the point of death to ease the experience, and the light phenomena seems to be part of that. Yes. Also 5-MeO DMT, which is just pure white light, which is a little bit deeper than where DMT goes. But that is apparently a lot like what it is when you die. Okay, should we get started on the stuff? Yeah, the Gnostics talk about them. Exactly, the archons. I just think it's a term, to be honest with you guys, I just think that's a term for simply beings that have entrapped the planet, that have enslaved the planet. Interstellar entities. They exist between stitches. Yeah, exactly as I said. Exactly. You got it, hyperbole. Exactly. Yes, they do. They eat loosh. They eat fear. That's why the whole world has been consumed with fear and led with fear, is because that is what those creatures eat. They eat the energy that you give off when you're afraid, when you're terrified, when you're in extreme amounts of pain. There is energy, low frequency energy that you emit. This is what's happening during the satanic rituals. They are torturing the child, and they are harming the child to lower the vibration of the child so that its energy, meaning the child's energy, can be consumed, because these creatures are low frequency. They can't consume high frequency. Loosh. They only can absorb the low frequency garbage, which is why they're constantly trying to depress us, constantly trying to overwhelm us, constantly control us, because we're free creatures. This is how you suppress the creatures from development. Keep them in lies, keep them in torture, keep them in pain, and this will keep their vibration low. That's why what you guys are seeing with the Great Awakening is the raising of the vibrations of the world, of each other, of ourselves. And that raising of the vibration, just like ringing a bell, the raising of a vibration is like a anti-archon or anti-low energy frequency. And this is how you not only protect yourself, but emerge. You see, it's a faith thing. You're not believing in anything, because a lot of the stuff I'm telling you about, Biker Chick, like your mind doesn't exist and your thoughts and feelings only exist in your mind. I mean, that's contradictive right there. And so in order to have an understanding of a wonder, there are conceptions, there are contradictions in order to find a greater and greater understanding. And belief is entwined in that. But the key is, don't entangle yourself into any belief. There's nothing wrong with having them, but don't grasp them. Don't depend on them. Use them for sibilance, but hold them loosely, so that when a larger perspective comes along, you're not trying to cling to your former perspectives, but you are free and open to move into a larger perspective. Just like when we were just talking about just now about near-death experiences. If you're locked into the idea of heaven and locked into the idea of like the only place I'm going after I die is heaven, and I'm not even consider anything else, just how big is your reality at that point? Just how much can you learn? But if you're willing to let that go, let the idea of heaven go, let the idea of separation go, we'll see now you have freed yourself for a larger perspective. So what I'm telling you, everything I say is just a perspective. It's not something that you are to tie in and moor down to. It's just perspective. Just like people's opinions, everybody's got them. It's okay, but it's just opinions. You don't have to believe, or you can, but don't get entangled. That is what we're doing. But you have, in order to have a conversation, you have to engage in some of these concepts, some of these contradictions. Very true. Very true it is. Okay. Yes. They're all pedophiles, folks. Every single pope ever. Every single one of them is a pedo. Every one of them. No exception. No exception. That too. They also create mind infections, but they only exist in your mind because they're not in this dimension. You see, we are in a wonder, folks. Everything is full of contradiction. You're never going to be able to say, this is the final thing. This is it. I got it. I got the concept. I'm right. I got it figured out. You can never say that. You are in a wonder. If you hear someone saying that, they're a fool, because we're in a wonder. There is no final. And even saying there is no final, even that's a belief. Do you see how crazy this is? See how nutty it is, the world that we live in? Is the yes, the Roman Empire never died. It became the Catholic Church. That's really funny, King. I like that, King. Thank you for that, buddy. I really love you, King, buddy. I really like having you here. Greatness. Okay. Mother Earth is a powerful being. She is the womb and the real matrix. The powers that be want to create or imitate Mother's Earth womb. Yes, exactly, because they're low frequency. The people, the archons, the beings, whatever, that took over the Earth, they're jealous of us because we are high frequency. We are high frequency beings. Here we go. Here you go, Chuck. I have read that at death, there is DMT released to ease the experience and light phenomena. Yes. Yeah. DMT is released in mass. If you read Richard Strassman's book on DMT, he talks about this, and they talk about how DMT facilitates the transition between the material world into the spiritual world. DMT is the chemicals, the neurochemical, literally, that when you're dying or facing death is released in mass. And this helps you transition. It opens the doorway of perception, and it allows you to be able to see a larger world than the one that you are in right now, or the one that you're in when you're dying. And so the DMT helps facilitate that transition, right? Okay. Chuck, I have a confession to make recently. I've been dabbling in the occult. Well, there's nothing wrong with studying it. I've studied the occult a lot, actually, but just don't get entangled with it. Okay. Everyone talks about those beings. Yes, and they do exist there. They do exist there. They do exist there. Yeah, it just means that that which is hidden. You're exactly right. Okay, it looks like you guys are good. Loosh, that's correct. Loosh. Loosh. That's it. Yeah. Loosh is just simply the exertion of energy and emotions, right? So when you're screaming in pain, if someone's torturing you and peeling your face off, you're releasing a tremendous amount of pain and anxiety and what you would be going through in something like that. And so that is coming off of you. It's a real thing. It's energy coming off of you. And these demons, these archons, eat it. They absorb it into themselves because they're dead creatures. They don't carry the light. They don't have the light in them like we do. We carry the light. We're light bringers. We're light carriers. That's us. Consciousness. We bring that. You see, and so they want that from us. And so that's why they have these torture sessions and rituals, is to generate loosh in the child so that the demon gets to eat that. And then the demon gives material power to the priest in their life. Money, power, influence, wealth, that kind of thing. That's the back and forth. Chuck, how do we believe in the theory of what beyond life if none can remember? How do we believe in the theory? You talking about at death, you don't remember? I think that's been part of the psyop. I think that part of coming into this planet has been that you forget who you are. I do. And I think that when you die, you have a momentary return of knowing who you are. And they're trying to trap you because, again, you have free will. They have to trap you. In other words, only you can give your brain away. Only you can give yourself away. No one can give you away. You have to give yourself away. And you do that with beliefs. That's why I say never give your brain to the catechism. Never give your brain to Islam or Judaism, because you're giving away your sovereignty. You're giving away your discernment. You're giving away your free will, you see? And so you're doing that because you're ignorant. You have forgotten who you are. And so when you die, you lose this psyop called this meat sack, right? And you're able to clarify the situation because you're no longer entrapped. And then you yourself, when you die, if you don't know, if you haven't done the work and you haven't done the study and merited yourself, what's going to happen is when you die, you're just going to go right back into the light. You're going to come right back here and you're going to do it all over again. And you won't remember. Part of the challenge is remembering. Part of the challenge is knowing who you are. And coming here, you forget. So the work here that you're to do here is to remember. And then therefore you will behave and choose appropriately when you die, because you've merited, you've done the work of awakening here. Not giving your brain away, not obeying, making sure that you doubt. These are means to freedom. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. Yes, there are. It's frequency. They cannot stand high frequency. It drives them away. Yes. The objective is to keep us from raised consciousness, unenlightened, because they can no longer control us. Exactly. You see, and essentially, now follow this, Catlin. We are giving away the control, meaning we're allowing them to control us. And I'm sure you get that, Catlin, but they have not come in and done this against our will. We have agreed to it. We have bought the egregores, you see. So it's because we've been complicit that we have remained in control. So how do we break that complicity? Awareness, which is the point of these Saturday nights and my Friday afternoons, is to build awareness in the society, to be a facilitator of that, to break the arms of control. Yes, stay curious, stay creative. Exactly. Wonder Twins. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. That's it. Perspective. Perspective. Perspective is everything. It's everything. Yes. Yes. Okay, looks like you got it. Okay, you guys are doing great. Why do they? It keeps us under control, Nancy. When you remove a person's identity, it's very easy to manipulate and control them because they don't know who or what they are. And that has really been the case of how we have been trapped here as a human collective, is we have forgotten. That's one of the psyops, is that we don't remember. That's another reason why they cut our lives so short, because by the time you get to about 45, 50, you start to figure this stuff out. And so by shortening our lives from being living 1,000 years to living, basically 60, 70 years, right? You give all of the creatures less time to figure it out. And you don't got any of these old codgers that have been around for 500 years and they see through every lie. And so you got to cut the life off of all of these creatures, namely us, or they're going to figure it out. You see, so they have to forget. They have to forget when they come back, and they have to live a short life. They meaning us. That's why they shortened our life, right? Less time to learn, less time to grow. And that's why they took away our memory. Because if you don't know who you are, I can control you. Especially if I tell you something like you're a sinner, you're bound to fall, you're bound to leave God, you're bound to do bad things, you're bound to be a horrible person. Just you're breathing, you're spreading your carbon all over the world, and you're destroying the atmosphere, You've got to keep all of the subjects suppressed. Suppressed in the way that they believe themselves to be sinners. They believe themselves to be fallen, because then they become their own warden. They become both the prisoner and the warden, because they have believed the lies of what we are. And if you've already got your inmates to believe the lie that they're criminals, that they're sinners, right? They're going to voluntarily stay in the prison. Will they not? Because it's all they know. It's all they know. Okay, so that's why they erased our memories when we reincarnate, because it keeps us suppressed. Okay, we got to get to Zen. We got to get going, or we're never going to get started. Okay, media assets. So you are watching Zen Week 13, the course of nature. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, and after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The point of that is, here we go. Let me get me back on the stage here. Where am I? No, remove. Here. Sorry, guys. Sorry. There. Sorry, guys. I'm still learning the navigating. Sorry. Okay, so the quote is that enlightenment doesn't change the world. It changes your perspective of it. Do you get that? Enlightened. Here, let's remove this. When you're enlightened, right? You simply have a different perspective, right? But the world hasn't changed. You still have to eat. You still have to chop wood. You still have to carry water. You still have to shower. You still have to hunt. You still have to do the things, right? So don't mistake or think that when you're enlightened, that somehow you're floating or something, or somehow you're like on another planet. It's just simply that you see the paradise that you're in, and so you respond in that way all the time. And so in many ways, you feel like you're floating, because the world is so impossibly beautiful. And it's because you've seen through the illusion of Maya, of time, of form, and you see the wonder, the essence, which is the non-material aspect. You see the essence for what it really is. And when that is the case, you will always behave appropriately, because you'll have so much respect, love, admiration, and care and compassion for yourself and the world that you're in, because you will realize the wonder. You'll realize the wonder you're in and the wonder that you are. So this is why appropriate behavior is not something that you beat into someone. It's something that they realize. It's not something that you teach. It's something that is seen. Okay? So true growth sources not from a beat down or correction. It comes from meditation. It comes from realizing your behavior, realizing who and what you are. And that brings about great and profound change, you see? And this is the context of the Great Awakening. Okay. So what I wanted to start off with here is just giving you guys a picture of the timeline of these ancient belief systems. So a lot of you may not know this, but Hinduism is actually one of the oldest Near Eastern religions. And then Taoism wasn't around until a 1,000 years later. I mean, think about that. 1,000 years later, after India had developed it. And a lot of people don't realize this, and I learned this from Dr. Campbell. The Chinese culture is actually the youngest culture. They developed the latest. I mean, you can see right here, Zen is just meaning the formal amalgamating of Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism, which is basically Zen, in my opinion. I mean, that's 535 AD. That's 1,000 years, 2,000 years. That's 1,000 years after these others had been started to develop. Taoism in 600 BC, and you got Zen in 535 AD. That's 1,000 years. And then 1,000 years before that, you got Hinduism, you see. So make no mistake, Zen is the one of the latest systems of thought, considerations of the world that exists. And the thing I like about that is that allows you to be able to use all the best parts of these other portions. Like you have in your Confucianism, you have this stoic, strong, what's the word I'm looking for? Confined and rightful duty that you carry out. Confucianism was obsessed with appropriate behavior and doing right to others and right to yourself. It's very along the lines of action, whereas Buddhism is more along the lines of meditation, of inward searching, rather than this person who is trying to be virtuous, the Confucian. The Buddhist is looking inward. They're turning inward for their understanding rather than acting and behaving according to the edicts of the culture. You see, Confucianism has a rigor to it in behavior that Buddhism doesn't. Buddhism is this releasing action, a lot like what Zen teaches. And then with Taoism, you have this uniting flow, you see. And so with Zen, you have this awesome combination of this unspeakable aspect from Hinduism, of this flow aspect from Taoism, of this inward search aspect of Buddhism, and this behavioral aspect of Confucianism. You see, and you amalgamate all those Eastern considerations together, Eastern and Near Eastern, and what do you get? You get Zen. You get Zen. And you get this situation whereby you are utilizing all the best aspects of these other beliefs. Do you see? So you have this inward search, which is so necessary with Buddhism. You have this flow that is so necessary with Taoism, right? Here, I'll bring it up so you can see me. The flow that's so necessary with Taoism. And then you have this unspeakable aspect that comes out of Hinduism. And isn't it a beautiful spiritual perspective when you have this unspeakable, this flow, this inner search, and this behavioral aspect of the Confucianism? You see? And then you wind up with Zen. Isn't that greatness? I think those kind of understandings just make this stuff unbelievably poignant. I mean, think about it. And so take the time after we're done here, when you get home, take the time and just consider these different belief systems or philosophies or whatever you want to call them. Just consider the larger picture. Okay, remove. There we go. Okay, add to stage. Next slide. The arrival of Buddhism. Now let's read together here for a minute. I added the bottom of page 36 to make this top page of 37 make more sense. So top right there, starting. Furthermore, though Brahman is said to know himself, this knowing is not a matter of information, a knowledge such as one has of objects distinct from a subject. In the words of Shankara, for he is the knower, and the knower can know other things, but cannot make himself the object of his own knowledge. This is where we're going to go into something a little bit heavier here. Follow. In the same way that fire cannot burn other things, it can't burn itself. You see, excuse me, in the same way that fire can burn other things, but it cannot burn itself. This is the knower. The knower cannot be an object of its own knowingness. You see, there has to be a comparative contrastive, but there is no compare and contrast in the oneness. This is when we immediately get into the world of contradiction. The knower cannot know itself because there is no separation. So when you think of the self, right? Well, the self has no knowledge of itself because there's no contrastive position there. Do you see? Continuing. To the Western mind, the puzzle, and it is a puzzle. I just told you the puzzle. To the Western mind, the puzzle of Indian philosophy is that it has so much to say about what the moksha, this is the release, the experience of release, experience is not, and little or nothing to say about what it is, right? Because you cannot say what it is. It's apophatic. Your approach is apophatic. This is naturally bewildering, for if the experience is really without content, or if it is so lacking in relation to the things which we consider important, how is one to explain the immense esteem which it holds in the Indian scheme of life? Let's find out. Even at the conventional level, it is surely easy to see that knowing what is not, that's apophatic, knowing what is not is so often quite as important as knowing what is. Even when medicine can suggest no effective remedy for the common cold, there is some advantage in knowing the uselessness of certain popular nostrums. Furthermore, the function of negative knowledge, in other words, knowing what won't work, is just as important as what will work. What do we remember from Edison? When he failed, what was it, like 1,000 times with a light bulb? His response was, well, now I know it doesn't work. I know 1,000 things that don't work, so I know a heck of a lot more than I did when I first started. Has he accomplished light? Nope. But he knows how not to, and that's just as important as when he finally discovers what will work. Do you see? The contrast is essential. Even when medicine can suggest no effective remedy for the common cold, there's advantage in knowing the uselessness of certain popular nostrums. Furthermore, the function of negative knowledge is not unlike the uses of space. Is not unlike the uses of space. The empty page upon which words can be written. You see, you have to have an empty page in order to write words. The empty jar into which liquid can be poured. The empty window through which light can be admitted. And the empty pipe through which water can flow. Here's the first step to understanding the emptiness. There must be emptiness in order for there to be fullness. In order for the pipe to learn water, it must contain no water in it first. That allows there to be room for water to flood in. It's the same concept with your mind, and we've talked about this before. If it's filled with all the answers, if it's filled with, I know, I got the solution, I got it figured out, what can that mind learn? Nothing, because it already knows. It already knows. It must be emptied in order for there to be light, knowledge. That's why space is empty. It must be empty in order for there to be light. Okay, continuing. Obviously, the value of emptiness lies in the movements it permits, you see, or in the substance which it mediates and contains. But the emptiness must come first. This is why the Indian philosophy concentrates on negation, on liberating the mind from concepts of truth. That'll be tough for the Christian to read. It proposes no idea, no description of what is to fill the mind's void, because the idea would exclude the fact someone as a picture of the sun on the window pane would shut out the true sun's light. Do you see? Because of the glare. You're not going to see the true sun because all you're going to see off of that window is the glare. This is the person who has the answers. The light is there. The light of knowledge is there, but they're reflecting a non-truth. And because they're so convinced and taken by this non-truth, which is the truth they think they know, right? They are blind to the real truth, to the real substance, to the real authentic self. Yeah? Whereas let's see, of light. Whereas the Hebrews would not permit an image of God in wood or stone, the Hindus will not permit, this is key, an image of thought unless it be so obviously mythological as not to be mistaken for the reality. Do you see the differences right there? Those are diabolical differences. The Hebrew will not permit an image of God in wood or stone, and in the same way, the Hindu will not permit an image of God in the mind. These are both idolatry. Do you follow that? They're both idolatry. Do you see? It's idolatrous to put God into a form like Yahweh or Jesus or Allah. That's idolatry. And it's idolatry to have an idea of God, of Allah, whatever, in your mind and putting it into a form. It's inappropriate. That should really be clear. That should make a great sense. So here's the pattern of the vault of emptiness. Void precedes fullness. We just studied that. So you source from the ineffable, because what is the ineffable? It's void. There's no words. The ineffable. Negation clears space for divine consciousness, because your consciousness is unlimited. So what's the key to open your consciousness, to realize its unlimited factor? Negation. That's how I open my consciousness for divinity. I get the ideas of God I have in my head out, and that allows me to then conceptualize God, because I've gotten rid of the ones that are in my head. That's that truth line that I just said it'd be tough for the Christians, that I just said. Right there, right side. This is why the Indian philosophy concentrates on negation, on liberating the mind from concepts of truth. You see? And so negation right there, second one, clears space for divine consciousness, because your consciousness is unlimited. And in order for it to be that unlimited factor, you must empty it. You see the contradiction? You live in a wonder. The journey of the hero sheds those illusions. How do I empty it, Chuck? You go on the journey of the hero, and that creates a larger reality. In other words, you save yourself. You see? You source from the ineffable, your consciousness is unlimited, and you save yourself. In other words, it's all on you, friend. Your realization, how big the world is, what the universe is, and what you are, is all limited by you. It will only go as far as you allow it, meaning get your mind out of the way. Allow it to flow, but not be a trap door, a door that keeps you, a ceiling that keeps you from moving past it. Because your mind is going to want to conclude, it's going to want to hold, it's going to want to secure to the sure thing. And the wise one is the one that doesn't hold to any truth, because the truth can't be put into words. So it's simply a realization. It's a flow that you amalgamate to through an inward search, which results in appropriate behavior. That's Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism right there. I just told you. And these things work together along with the ineffable, which is the Hinduism idea. These things all work together to place you, or to position you into the position of Zen. It's so clear. It's so clear. Look, we have the ineffable on the left. We have the flow there in Taoism. We have the inward search there in Buddhism. We have the appropriate behavior and the stoicism of the Confucian. And then we have what? We have the freedom, which is there in the Zen. the combination of all these others in order to form an appropriate life, an appropriate being, meaning appropriate to the space, the wonder that you're in, beneficial to the wonder that you are around and about, others, yourself, and so forth. You see, this is the vault of emptiness. Clarification, religions cage reality with rigid concepts, and you guys know that. Negation, here it is, negation drops you out of the cage and into emptiness. And emptiness is where I can learn because I'm not already full. This initiates flow. It is the emptiness of your mind that initiates flow into it. So if you want to learn, it's the emptiness of your mind that will allow you to learn. In other words, stop thinking you're something on a stick. Stop thinking that you got the answers. Stop thinking that you got the afterlife figured out. Stop thinking that you got your identity here figured out. Stop thinking that you got God figured out. These are all self-consumption. They all lead to narcissism and selfism. People won't want to be around you, and you'll behave inappropriately because you think you're something on a stick. You think you got it figured out. And there's nothing more disgusting in the world than being around a person that thinks they got it figured out. And so the exit strategy is doubt, disobedience, understanding wonder through negation. The deeper persistence, Tao, emerges from the void, from emptiness, not words, not forms, not conventions. These will always fall short. The appropriate approach is apophaticism, right there, apophatic, top right. The knowledge of God obtained through negation, the opposite of cataphatic, and this is the focus of the Indian. Work through apophatism, knowing by what God, the deeper persistence, is not. Negate concepts of worded truth because truth can't be put into words. Stop thinking that you know the truth because the truth doesn't fit into words. You just look foolish saying that you know the truth. The truth is inconceivable. It's inconceivable. Free your mind from conventions. No description could ever fill a void or a wellspring. Ideas exclude larger facts like windows obscuring or glazing light. No thought can image God. Only obvious myths avoid confusion, and the most obvious myths never need interpretation. And what does the myth do? It points you to the deeper truth right here. The 4 functions of mythology. It points you to the deeper truth. Go back and pause this and read that. The mythology of the society is what is going to open your doors of perception, meaning socially. The society is to be a reflection of the profundity that is the wonder that we live and that we are. And it is the myths, it is the mythologies that will tease, that will render this deeper truth so that that society then lives appropriately because they have perspective. They understand perspective. And that is what mythology gives you, is perspective. Look at this here on the left, cosmological function. To offer an image of the world that is within the bounds of technology and science, this function serves or offers relevant shape to the universe, but in such a way that the mystery pours through. Do you see? The mythology is to allow the mystery to pour through. Bottom right here, pedagogical. To center, this is the role of the mythology, to center, integrate, and carry the individual through the various stages and crises of life, childhood dependency, responsibilities of maturity, reflection in old age, and transition into death. You see, it's the role of the mythology to carry these things out. That's the role of mythology. And we have been stuck in a stagnant mythologies from thousands of years ago that have mythologized the world into a smaller wonder than it truly is, because it's not a sin and atonement world. That's not what composes nature. Nature is not a chance happenstance. Nature didn't come about by just dumb luck. It has a self-organizing factor. And this is exactly what, here, this is exactly what my logo emulates, the layers and deeper principles of all things. Do you see? The layers and principles of all things. And this is the mythology puts the ineffable, that which doesn't fit into words, into concepts, large, vast concepts that allow you to cognize, to bring about a greater awareness about something that can't be put into words. That's the role of the myth. Continuing now, add to stage. So next slide, page 37, The Vault of Emptiness. Indian philosophy says much on what moksha isn't, little on what it is. Negative knowledge is vital as it enables a pit for fire, a jar for water, a window for light. Emptiness first mediates substance to movement. This is the moon side, or the unconscious side, that undergirds action. Remember when I showed you guys my logo here? Remember the right side there on the logo, the fire and earth, that is the action. And then the moon on the left side there, air and water. And no, it's not mixed up. Symbols are the face that you see. So the left side there is on your right that says air and water. This is what undergirds fire and earth. They are the motivating forces of energy that motivate action. And that's what this is talking about here. This is the moon side, or unconscious side, that undergirds action. The Indian wants to liberate the Western mind from concepts of truth so they can experience it. Did you follow that? The Indian wants to liberate the Western mind from their concepts of truth, because the Western mind knows it's got it figured out, right? They want to free the person from that trap so that they can experience the wonder for what it is, not for what they've been told. Because the Christian, the Islamist, the Jew, they experience the world as it was informed to them, not how it is. Big difference. They know the world that the Bible handed them. They know the world that the Quran handed them. They don't know the world through experience. They know it through the words, the linearity of the Western mind. And this is the goal here of the Indian, is to render to the Westerner an experience of the truth rather than words about the truth. That's the difference. Emptiness enables growth. Cling to nothing, so rapture, awakening, and truth can spontaneously fill your life. New awareness comes out of nowhere, totally unexpected, does it not? Is not an epiphany, a new understanding, does that not come from nowhere? Seriously, come out of nowhere because we're in a wonder? It comes out of nowhere. That's why it's an epiphany, because you didn't know. And you find that stuff out by surprise. Those are those moments, the aha moment, like, I can't believe it. That's the epiphany. That's when you're going to discover truth. Those moments like that. The unexpected life, because the Christian expects the life, do they not? They're expecting tribulation. They're expecting to go to heaven. They're expecting the sin and atonement experience. This is expected. The unexpected life is free of anxiety, nonplussed, grasping at nothing, receiving but not keeping. You see, but the one who already knows, who keeps, they cannot learn. A well isn't hungry for water. A fire isn't seeking heat. A star isn't seeking light. The knower doesn't know what he doesn't know. You got it? You got it? The Indian mind excludes facts with ideas. There are no graven images in a headless man. Myths alone suffice and are unmistakable from reality. And that's very true. This liberates from the West's pesky obsession for idolatry. Consider Easter, Christmas, and Jesus iconography to the Christian, the myths of Zeus and Athena to the Greek, or the legend of Allah to the hardcore Islamist. They cannot be separated from reality. You see, they are tied into the Jesus iconography, Christmas and Easter, right? Then Zeus and Athena was the Greek. That's how they saw God and the human experience. And then we have the legend of Allah. This is for the Islamists. They cannot imagine a world without Allah. Each mind sees its myth as ultimate truth rather than a fiction pointing to a deeper persistence. The anxious-free life is headless. Do you follow what I'm talking about here? Do you follow what I'm talking about? Let's go to questions if you guys have any questions. I'm going to the bottom. I'm at the bottom. Do you guys have any questions? all caps. Here's the sheet again in case you want to think of a question. I just want to make sure you guys are clear on this. Each mind sees its myth as ultimate truth rather than a fiction pointing to a deeper persistence. It's the deeper persistence that's bigger than any religion. It's bigger than any belief, right? The deeper persistence outweighs any kind of thought you have. It's deeper than that. Looks like you guys are good. Chuck, here. On what page can I expect sudden awakening? What's the best way to create fertility? I love it, Bob. See, that's the thing. I hope you're being facetious here, Bob, and I think you are. But when you said, can I expect sudden awakening? See, you can't expect, you see. Sudden awakening comes without expectation, and I'm sure you're being facetious with me, so you're just playing. But yeah, that's oxymoronic, what you have written there. And it's a good way to teach. I like it, Bob. What's the best way to create fertility? This is the role of the mind, Bob. The role of the mind is to foster a fertile world that allows you to conceptualize, to experience a bigger world than the one of words. So to create fertility for awareness, you experience, you risk and put yourself, position yourself into life. And this will create fertility, and the fertility being the birthing of a larger and larger awareness. And the sudden awakening happens when you position yourself to be in a place of fertility. It's the sudden awakening that's the conception. The sudden awakening is the conception happening out of nowhere, unexpectedly, and this creates the larger world. Because I can't go into a larger world expecting that world, because then it's not going to be a larger world. I'm already expecting it. But if I have no expectation, I have an empty mind, you see, I can then move straight into that fertile reality that will birth the great awakening here. Okay. Yeah, that's our job. You got it, Gretchen. That's our job. Hey, Craig. Welcome, buddy. Welcome. Yeah, exactly. And in fact, there is no observer because there is no separation. Yeah. It's really funky, this stuff. It's really funky. And you know, that's completely normal. I mean, that's what we should expect and wonder, that it's just completely funky. Okay. What you vision and believe you will have. Yeah. Raise your vibration to what you want. How can better silence the word thoughts that spin in my mind? Yeah, that's the challenge, Lancelot. That's the challenge of release. That's the challenge of releasing from the anxieties that cause us to not know who we are and behave inappropriately. It's because we're ignorant. And part of the reason we're ignorant is because we get those thoughts like that go through our head. And so it's a practice, Lancelot. Meditation is just like lifting weights. It's something that you practice. It's something that you never fully master. You're never going to exhaust your need to stay in shape and to keep your body well conditioned. That never ends. And it's the same thing with the profundity that is life. You never end not only pursuing it, but being a part of it. It doesn't end. And so the thoughts that spin in your mind will go forever until you release. You release to the idea that you don't have any answers and you never will have answers. That life is an enigma, that it is to be experienced for the profundity that it is, not for knowing about it. The experience of not knowing is the one that you want, because that's the one that brings you the profound essence. And so to lose the thoughts in your mind is to do the inward search, is to seek inwardly and silence that voice that keeps on running, which is why that's the feeling of being anxious, is exactly what you just described. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's why I'm here. Very good. That's the only way to go. That's what I did when I first started. Absolutely. Absolutely. Our job is to wake these dead minds. No, it's not your job to wake the dead minds. It's to be a light. You don't have a job. You don't have a job. It's to simply be a light. And fulfillment is your reward. Being a light and an inspiration to others and seeing how your positive energy positively affects others is the reward. That's the great motivating factor. And that's centered on compassion. That the motivation there would be compassion. And if you live a life of compassion, you're going to live a very fulfilling life. It is. I don't mess around with that book, man. You can't. I don't see how a person can read that book and remain religionist, or at the very least remain a Christian. If you really read my book and really study it, you will find that it's undeniable. The stuff that I bring up in it is undeniable. To have belief in faith versus to have faith in your belief. Yeah, these two things are opposite. So you can't, Bill, just so you know, you can't have belief in faith, and faith is not based on belief. There is no substance for faith. Faith is not substantiated. That's why it's a statement of faith, because you can't substantiate it. You can't give a bunch of facts to back it up. It's a statement of faith. You see, these two things are incongruent. And so belief, what is a belief? It's a statement of facts, meaning it's a statement of your beliefs and what you have tied yourself into. Beliefs are what you substantiate your opinions on. You see, that has nothing to do with faith. Faith isn't an opinion that you decide any more than love is a feeling that you decide. Faith is the same way. It's something that you simply experience by positioning yourself in a place to experience it. And that's the role of the mind. Yeah, and then after you do that, good call there, Clueless. And then after you do that, then try to not even go into the spaces in between the mind chatter and expand the spaces while in meditation. Then, because there are no spaces and there is no mind and there's nothing to expand, go into that space to where there's no contrast. You see, there's not even spaces between the mind chatter. And that's the nuttiness of this whole thing, is that it doesn't matter what you say. Eventually, that's going to be self-contradicting. You see? But yeah, these are all good thoughts. These are all very good. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Icarus, Matt, I appreciate that. Really appreciate that. We really try to love one another here and allow each other to have the space to have an opinion, for sure. I hate jobs. Yeah. You don't got a job. Don't worry. You did not come here to work a job. That is not why you came to this planet. You guys are so great with your sarcasm. I love it. It's so good. Okay. Looks like we're good. I don't see any all caps, so I think we're good. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Let's keep on trucking. All right. The headless life, that's what we want. The headless life, nirvikalpa and disentanglement. Now, and just in case some of you guys didn't know, Atman, there in the top right fact nugget, Atman refers to the individual self or soul, representing the innermost essence of a person that is eternally unchanging yet distinct. And interestingly, Atman is a parallel with Brahman, is the ultimate infinite reality or universal consciousness that pervades everything in the cosmos, the absolute ground of all existence without personal attributes. And so according to Hinduism, the Atman the closest thing to that would be your soul, and Brahman, the closest thing to that would be God. So as we talk about Atman and Brahman, that is the idea that we're referring to. And understand also, ultimately, as you know, ultimately, there is no differentiation between Atman and Brahman. These are both the same wonder, but we categorize them so we can identify and understand ourselves in this context as well as God in this context. But again, remember, and we all know this, contextualizing myself and God is inappropriate. So there's your contradiction. Okay, so make no mistake, we're all aware walking into this knowing we're being contradictive here, but we're purposefully being contradictive so that we can talk about it. But we all know there is a deeper essence that's even beyond these words that we're saying. Okay, let's keep it profound. All right, liberation, next line. It is to realize that I am not this body, these sensations, these feelings, these thoughts, this consciousness. The basic reality of my life is not any conceivable object. Ultimately, it is not even to be identified with any idea as of God or Atman, like I just said. In the words of the Mandukya Upanishad, that which is conscious neither of the subjective nor of the objective, nor of both, which is neither simple consciousness nor undifferentiated sentience, nor mere darkness. It is unseen, without relations, incomprehensible, uninferable, and indescribable, the essence of self-consciousness, the ending of Maya. You see, the Atman is to our total consciousness what the head is to the sense of sight, neither light nor darkness, neither full nor empty, only an inconceivable beyond. In the moment when every last identification of the self with some object or concept has ceased, in the state called nirvikalpa, or without conception, there flashes forth from its unknown depths the state of consciousness, which is called divine, the knowledge of Brahman. Translated into conventional, and let it be repeated, mythopoetic language, the knowledge of Brahman is represented as the discovery that this world, which seemed to be many, is in truth one, that all is Brahman, and that all duality is falsely imagined, taken as statements of fact. Such utterances are logically meaningless and convey no information. And what it's saying right there is when you say something or say the world is all one, you've actually not said anything, because there's no contradiction. We're gonna dive into this in a second, but you actually haven't said anything because there's no information. There's no contrast. Yet they seem to be the best possible expression in words of the experience itself, though it is as if in the moment of saying the last word, the tongue were paralyzed by its own revelation and compelled to babble nonsense or be silent. Moksha is also understood as liberation from Maya, one of the most important words in Indian philosophy, both Hindu and Buddhist. For the manifold world of facts and events is said to be Maya, illusion, ordinarily understood as an illusion which veils the one underlying reality of Brahman. This gives the impression that moksha is a state of consciousness in which the whole varied world of nature vanishes from sight, merged in a boundless ocean of vaguely luminous space. Very good. Very good. Nirvikalpa means without conception, as we just read. To understand this requires a progressive disentanglement, and the first being the self, your identity. Your identity is not your body. It's not your sensations, your feelings, your thoughts, or even consciousness, as those are all conventions. So just like God, your identity is not a conceivable object or idea, and you guys should know that. Consciousness is close. Love is close. Spirit is close, but no word can touch identity finally, right? Is that, I want that painfully clear in your minds, that no word can touch your identity. When you understand who you are, you see, that is even less than what you really are, because no word can touch you, what you really are. It's the same with God. No word can touch that. That's why negation, apophatic approach is important, because no word can touch it. And you see, when you see yourself in that way, it's much easier to see yourself as divinity, as a spirit. And this will will foster and tease appropriate behavior, because you will see yourself as this ineffable spirit having this material experience, and how beautiful that is. And the more beauty you fill into your life, the more appropriate you'll behave, because you respect everything. You have affinity for everything, because you have this incredible perspective that everything is of God, is God's essence, essentially. And don't you see then how appropriate you'll behave around other people? Because you will see the God in them is the same as the God that's in you. You are animated. What makes you who you are is the same thing that makes them who they are. You see yourself, you see God in them. And this is how you foster appropriate behavior, because you're not going to treat a person that you see that way inappropriately. If you see them as an incarnation, as a manifestation of God, and see them with the same respect that you have for yourself and love that you have for yourself, I mean, this is how you get appropriate behavior. It doesn't come in because you get the beat down. It doesn't come in because, you're threatened. You have to like, or you have to love this person. That doesn't foster like and love. But re-identifying and seeing yourself and seeing God in them, that foster love, appreciation, and all that stuff. Okay, that's what we're pointing towards here. Okay. So just like God, your identity is not a conceivable object or idea. Consciousness is close, love is close, spirit is close, but no word can touch identity finally. This is a concept whereby identifications plunge into unknown depths like pure virtuous light, whereby the world is one and duality and illusion. Mythically, all is Brahman, all is God, similar to the Western concept of God, but no personal identity. That's one of the toughest things to learn. When you leave a Western religion, is leaving this idea of God as a personal God that has your concerns, your life, your existence as its main priority, main concern. That is a very small picture of God. The idea of God being this personal, relatable, get in touch with, realize, is too small, is disrespectful for what that is. There is no personality there. There is no personable there. It's an energy. It's an underlying force of love, but there is no personality involved there. It's bigger than that. Do you see? This is a big concept. I know it's tough. I know it's tough for the Westerner to get this, but follow. Mythically, all is Brahman, similar to the Western concept of God, but no personal identity. It is here that all myths point. Okay? It's to here that all myths point, as life is a mythology, not a theology. It's not words, it's a myth. An experience, not a race. A growing, not a making. You see, you're not in a competition. You're in an experience. You're not racing to get anywhere. There's no telos you're trying to realize. You're like a dancer. You're on the floor dancing. There is no point. There's no destination. That's what this is pointing to here. It's an experience, not a race. You're not trying to finish anything. You're not trying to accomplish anything. You're here to experience accomplishment. You're here to experience finality, for sure. But that's not the thing. You're growing. You see, it is logically meaningless to say all is God, yet it is experientially apt, as we know. Brahman is a tongue-tied revelation, be it babbling or silent. Watts makes it clear. The claim that all is God is not a statement of fact, but a poetic echo of awakening. Where one dies or dissolves into many, many die or dissolve into one. Liberation is the revelation of unity beneath this play, the Leela. You guys hear Alan say that often. The Leela of God. Liberation frees from caged orthodoxies. to embrace a formless, vibrant existence that points to where words fail. And what better place to point than that? Pro tip, Atman is neither subjective, objective, nor consciousness, sentience, unseen, and incomprehensible non-essence of self-consciousness. Atman is to consciousness what head is to sight. Like your heart, Atman is beyond light and dark, full or empty, love and hate, just like your heart. Make sense? Makes sense? Let's see if you guys got any questions. You guys are killing it on the comments. This is incredible how many comments there are. Oh my God. Let's see if you guys got any questions. Chuck, my daughter's father is at death's door right now. I'm so sorry to hear that. He and I divorced 14 years ago. It's been a journey, and these teachings and your light has helped me support her through this. Oh my God. Thank you for that. Thank you, Gretchen. Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm really sorry you're facing that stuff, Gretchen. My heart to you, love. You're welcome. It's my honor to be here, and I'm glad to do this. This stuff saved my life, and so I'm glad that it's helping you guys too. I'm glad that it's being a light for you guys, because it was such a light for me. So it's a real honor to share it with you. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Man. So sorry. Good? We good? Should we keep going? Yeah. Thanks for your compassion, Redhead. Thank you, love. Yeah. It's hard to read that. My heart goes out to you, Gretchen. Really love you. Really love you. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, I'm glad these slides are a light to you. That is, that's beautiful. Okay. Continuing now. How are we doing? We're at 6:30. We're doing good tonight. We're making really good time tonight. Okay. Add back to stage. Continuing now in our study. Okay. Page 39. Maya as measurement, not mere illusion. Oh, good. Yeah, okay. All right. For Brahman is not one as opposed to many, not simple as opposed to complex. Brahman is without duality, which is to say without any opposites, since Brahman is not in any class, or for that matter, outside any class. And here that refers to pro tip. This is why God cannot be conceptualized. Brahman God has no contrast. It's the circle in space. And this is what I wanted to show you. Without contrast, look at what you would see. You see, do you see the circle? You see, there's no circle to see. There's no God to see. You see, you have to have contrast there. So you have to have contrast. And so here, right here, pro tip, this is why God cannot be conceptualized. Brahman God has no contrast. You see, and so that's what it looks like when there's no contrast, and that's why you can't see it. That's why God cannot finally be conceptualized any more than you, because there's no contrast. You see? And that's why we have to have contrast in this 2D, 3D reality we live in here on Earth. You see, it's to have experience. I have to have that contrast to have experience, you see? And that's why the world has pleasure and pain in it. That's why it has light and darkness. That's why it has good and evil. It's these contrasts that actually compose the world, because the world is composed of contrasts. That's what allows you to have experiences, is because you are in the midst of contrasts. And it is the dynamism of the two contrasts, of the contrasting elements, that brings experience to you. This is why the Eastern considers God uses experience, uses this 3D to know itself, because this experience here is contrastive, and it allows there to be something called knowledge about the contrasts. You see? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are right. You guys are right. You got it. You got it. Okay, add the stage. Let's go back. Okay. Now, classification is precisely Maya. The word is derived from the Sanskrit root matter, to measure, form, build, or lay out a plan. The root from which we obtain such Greco-Latin words as meter, matrix, material, and matter. The fundamental process of measurement is division, whether by drawing a line with the finger, by marking off, or by enclosing circles with the span of the hand or dividers, or by sorting grain or liquids into measures, cups. Thus, the Sanskrit root dva, from which we get the word divide, is also the root for the Latin duo, two, and the English dual. To say then that the world of facts and events is Maya is to say that facts and events are terms of measurement rather than realities of nature. Did you follow that? We must, however, expand the concept of measurement to include setting bounds of all kinds, whether by descriptive classification or selective screening. It will thus be easy to see the facts and events are as abstract as lines of latitude or as feet and inches. Do you see how it's abstract? Consider for a moment that it is impossible to isolate a single fact all by yourself. Facts come in pairs at the very least, for a single body is inconceivable apart from the space in which it hangs. Definition, setting bounds, delineation, these are always acts of division and thus of duality, for as soon as a boundary is defined, it has two sides. You see? That's the world that we're in, the boundaries and two sides. This point of view is somewhat startling and even quite hard to understand for those long accustomed to think that things, facts, and events are the very building blocks of the world, the most solid of solid realities. I remember when I was like that. Yet a proper understanding of the Maya doctrine is one of the most essential prerequisites for the study of Hinduism and Buddhism. And in trying to grasp its meaning, one must try to put aside the various idealist philosophies of the West with which it is so often confused, even by modern Indian Vedantists. Yes. Okay. This is the next one here. Okay. Maya as measurement, not mere illusion. Wasn't this sculpture on the right epic? I mean, it perfectly exemplifies Maya. Moksha is liberation from Maya, the illusory matrix veiling Brahman. Brahman transcends opposition, one versus many, simple versus complex, exiting any class. Maya derives from matter, or to measure, akin to matter or matrix, signifying division, lines, boundaries, classifications. Here it is, that fragment reality, but yet they're necessary. Facts and events are measurement terms like latitude, lines, or measured inches, and these are paired inseparably as bodies and thus need space to exist. But all boundaries, there's your key, all boundaries are mutual. So you got to have two. No isolated fact can exist. Boundaries create duality as every line has two sides. Watts urges to shed idealist conventions. So to grow a deeper perspective, Maya reveals the world's relational yet ungraspable nature, which is pivotal for Hindu-Buddhist insight. Maya aligns with the grasp of reality as a hallucination, freeing from religious cages. Remember the orange sunglasses that Rupert mentioned to the young lady that was asking him the question, and how he said, when you are skiing and you're wearing the orange sunglasses, it makes all the snow look orange. And it's the same thing when you put on your religious sunglasses or your scientific sunglasses or your historical sunglasses. You see, they taint authentic reality because your mind is involved. Your presuppositions, your opinions, your hates, your likes, your dislikes, your wants, your desires. You see, these color authentic reality. And you've colorized it with your mind, with the ideas that are in your mind, which are not authentic. The world is authentic. Your mind is inauthentic in the sense that it has, like I just said, presuppositions, ideas, conclusions. you see. And so the appropriate approach here, excuse me, is understanding that you are wearing essentially orange sunglasses every day. Your mind is coloring the world to the way that you see fit, to the way that makes sense to you. And so the only way you're ever going to see authentic reality is if you take off your religious sunglasses, if you take off your scientific sunglasses, you take off your historical sunglasses, your political sunglasses, you take those off, and then you can see the world objectively without your mind getting in the way. But using your mind to see, using your mind to observe, using your mind to collect the patterns, but then quickly getting your mind out of the way so that you can see those patterns without the objectivity of your mind. Do you see? Yeah, very good. That means so much, Gretchen. I really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that so much. Really appreciate that. Maya is an illusion. Grit is in the field doing it, right? As far as I understand, Maya is the illusory world, like it doesn't even exist, and the grit is down in it, getting down in it, into the grit, and getting caught up in that grit, not realizing that you're caught. That's, I hope, what you're asking about. Yeah, the purpose of intellect. This is a great question, Josephine. The purpose of intellect, right, is for you to position yourself for growth. Okay, so that's the purpose of your mind. The mind is there to simply position you so that you'll grow the fastest that you possibly can grow, right? And so that's why you have a mind. But the problem is when the mind gets in the way, when it puts its own conclusions, its own presuppositions onto the world, that's when your intellect is no longer serving you. But your intellect is serving you when you realize I'm an illusion. I'm here to experience. I'm here to learn and grow. You see, that's when your intellect is serving you. But it's a disservice to you when it makes you a fanatic, or when you get completely convinced of something and you can't learn anything else. That's when your intellect is in the way. Or when you're too self-consumed. Your focus is too much on you and your concerns, your wants, your desires, your opinion, your whatever. You see, that's also your intellect getting in the way. You get these things out of the way. I don't agree with that, Shan, just so you know. Intellect would be more mind. Awareness would be past mind, in my opinion. And I might be totally wrong, Shan, and I obviously respect your thoughts here. But I do think that intellect is the mind itself, its creativity, its ability to find and see and recognize patterns, to collect knowledge and know, okay, your intellect. And then your awareness, this is the barn doors. Just how much can your intellect take in? That's your awareness. Just how much do you allow yourself to know? Awareness is past the intellect. It is the emptiness before the intellect, if that makes sense. I'd love to know your thoughts on that, Shannon. I'll be happy to talk to you about it at Zoom if you want. Thank you, Jules. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Just looking to see if there's any question. Radio. Good deal. Okay, here. Question. Hi, Chelsea. We need to separate our true being from the mind and just observe it. Okay, so there's nothing to separate. True being from the mind. Yeah, your mind is, think of your mind like your hand. It's an asset that you have in this illusion, this illusory reality, okay? And you'll use your hand to pick things up and to, accomplish something, let's say, or to get something done, right? And then you're going to use your mind the same way. You're going to use it to see patterns. You're going to allow your mind to show you yourself in the world that you're living. So you'll recognize with your mind yourself and others, God and others, you see. And that's what it's for, you see. But if you're using the mind to define the space finally, to tell nature what it is, to say what the world is, what you are, you've gone too far. Okay, there's no finality. The mind is to observe, find the patterns, experience, access the Akashic field knowledge, to travel, use your mind to travel the universe, to travel time, all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's what it's for. But the problem is when it gets entangled in experience, in the experience, and taints the experience because it's entangled in it. It's putting itself into, it's that idea when you put yourself too much in the world, you make the world all about you, and you make the world a narcissistic experience. That's what happens when you put your mind into too much. You make it all about the mind, and it's not. It's not. Your mind is simply there to facilitate your experience, just like your hand is there to facilitate your experience. Just don't let it be the thing. Don't let it be the thing. We can listen to the heart or the mind. The mind is the hive mind's prescription prescript for your life. It's like a choose your own adventure. Heart or mind, be minded by the mind. We can listen to our mind. You can listen to the heart and mind. The mind it can become a hive mind. If your prescriptions are prescript. Exactly. That's exactly right. For your life. It's like a choose your own adventure. Yes. Heart or mind, be mind by the mind. Yeah. Heart or mind. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Chuck. Hi, Craig. When did heart become a euphemism for the soul? Seems they started using this language to subconsciously connect God to our human hearts instead of our eternal souls. I don't know. Those are fine lines, Craig, in my opinion. Splitting hairs there. Using language to subconsciously connect God to our human hearts. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of different ways people utilize these things you're talking about, and that's going to be up to the individual. But I don't think there's a set in there, a set way. I don't know when it became a euphemism for the soul. That's a good question. That'd be a good study. That'd be something to check out. You're so sweet, Gretchen. Thank you. You're really nice to me today. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're always kind to me. Thank you, Gretchen. You're very kind to me. Thank you. Okay. Currently reading it. Chuck, have you read A Course in Miracles? It talks heavily about the mind. Nope, I haven't read that book. Does the practice of seeking Zen become innate after a certain level? Yeah, it's a way of life. It's not seeking Zen. It's a way of observing the world. Zen is a way of observing the world without becoming entangled in the world, being a part of the world and engaging in the world without becoming entangled with it. And so the great thing about Zen is that you can be fully present, fully aware, fully engaged, but you're not entangled. You're not entangled. Here's a good example. Let's say like one of your parents dies. Okay. That's a tragedy. That's terrible. That's terrible. And you're going to go through a grieving process, but eventually you have to let go. You can't stay there. If you stay in that grieving process, you see you're entangled. You're entangled. And that's going to hold you back from development down the road because you won't let go. Okay. And so it's like that with Zen. It's not something you hang to and you're seeking and trying to find and pursuing. It's simply a way of being. There's no seeking. There's no expectation. There's no destiny. There's no goals. You release from these things and you allow life to unfold as it's going to unfold without getting in the way. And that's the role of the mind, to know how to get out of the way, like staying out of the way, so that you can remain nonplussed, fully engaged, fully present, no numbing at all, no numbing at all, right? But nonplussed, unimpressed, but not negative, nihilistic, unimpressed in the sense of composure. But again, at the same time, there's nothing wrong with freaking out and being real excited and happy, or having a bad moment and losing it. That's called being human. That's called being human. It's the non-human that, a tragedy happens right in front of them and they're like, interesting, moving on. There's no feeling there. That's inhuman. So there's nothing wrong with having, the feelings, emotions, and that moment, right? And being all in. But the idea is you don't stay there. The Zen doesn't stay there. They're not caught. And they're not lacking, like they're not trying to seek something, not trying to get something out of life. They're not trying to extract or accomplish. You see, it's just a pace. It's just walking through life, fully engaged, fully present, and then moving on, not having all of these things that tie you down, keep you back, and run tapes in your head. But it's just this flow of walking along the path. And yes, it does become innate, because you realize you're not taken by the world anymore. You're just not taken by its craziness, its stupidities, its nuttiness. You're not taken by it. You have feelings, passionate, absolutely, but you're not taken by it. That's the one thing to be really careful of, is that with some of this Buddhist stuff, is it's so non-self that it becomes ascetic really easily. And you become detached, and you become like this emotional waif where like nothing penetrates, you see. And to me, there's a lack of humanness in that situation. The point of life isn't to be able to see or experience anything and just remain stoic, like, I'm not moved. Okay, that doesn't affect me. That's not going to get in my mind. That doesn't bother me. That's a bot. And this is that fine line in Zen, Buddhism, any of these Eastern philosophies, in that you're nonplussed, but you're fully engaged. You're fully present, but you're not entangled. That's the line. That's the line. And you do that long enough, yes, it becomes innate. You're not detangling yourself, because you're never entangled, but you're fully present, aware, compassionate, feeling, empathetic, all those things, fully there, but you're not caught. Yeah? I hope that makes sense, Lancelot, yeah? Okay, here. Hi, Mother Nature. Are mind, intellect, ego interrelated to? Isn't ego's purpose to be interpreter for soul, to interact with 3D life? Yeah. Your ego mind, I'm assuming you're thinking similarly to me here, in that ego is mind. Okay, so ego mind, the purpose is to be an interpreter for the soul and interact with 3D life. Yeah. Experience life, fully engaged. That's why you don't want to kill the ego. The ego is important. It helps you find patterns. It helps you identify and feel truth. Okay, ego is important. Are mind, intellect, ego interrelated? Yeah, it's part of the human experience, and each has a role. Each has a role. And we've been talking about mind, the intellect, knowledge, wisdom. This is coming out of your intellect, and the ability to see patterns, that's coming out of your intellect. And your ego is interrelated, because you're going to be relating what you're experiencing to yourself. You see? So yes, they're interrelated. And it's simply a matter of, do not allow your ego, your mind, to become entangled. Because when you become entangled, that's when you stop growing. That's when you stop growing. I'm sorry, Shan. I'm sorry. I like chat too much. It distracts me. And so I spend a lot of time in chat, because I really like chat. And so I don't get all my sliced, and I'm sorry. But I really care about you guys, and I just want to make sure that this is all clear. Yeah. Good, Linda. Zen is being the witness of what is. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Chuck, I like your quote to start tonight. What you do in life echoes in eternity. Yeah, that's an ancient Roman quote from, I think it was 170. So we are here to do and not strictly to learn and be neutral observers. Absolutely participate. I mean, remember, it was the Buddha himself that said, asceticism is a dead end. It's a dead end. What good are you to yourself and society as an ascetic? So in other words, participate. The ascetic is only participating in their own little world, their own little thing they got going on. They're not contributing. And in my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, but in my opinion, one of the major reasons why we come here is to contribute to society, to contribute to the development of others. I mean, to me, that is one of the highest, biggest callings on this planet, is how can I participate in the development and growth of the society? How can I participate in the development and growth of myself so that I can be a better participant in the society? So absolutely absolutely participate fearlessly, give yourself to life. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it does echo in eternity. It does echo in eternity. This forgetfulness that you experience here, you're not experiencing when this meat sack dies. And you will recount, you will know this life, your behaviors, what you did. You will know these things. And you will know your other lives that you have lived previously. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. This is all part of the growth. You are a growing soul, a growing spirit, and it is your experiences. It is your lives that you live over and over and over again that bring you the juice, man. Just like life, engaging it is what brings you the juice. If I retract, numb myself out with drugs, alcohol, whatever, and I retract, the whole point of life is missed, because the whole point of life is to be fully engaged, fully present, fully active, participating, but not entangled. Yeah. So absolutely, not just a neutral observer, absolutely participating. See you, Bob. Thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay. We might end a little bit early tonight. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we do here in questions, and then I'll just continue on my slides. Yeah. Yes, I agree. I have had problems with the concept of detachment. Seems in human heartless in a fine line. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. And that's why I've repeatedly said tonight, it's not about numbing out and detaching. It's about not being entangled. But it's not about detaching from life. In my opinion, I mean, we're here to serve and be with and share in life with others. That's why we're here. Not only to grow ourselves, but to grow with others and to help others also grow. To me, the betterment of the species, the betterment of the collective, the betterment of humanity. To me, that's the Quan to me. I'd love to read some of them. There's great sense of, there are some people in my chat that have some incredibly funny sense of humor. It's really good. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was in it for 40 years. 40 years. Hey, Barbara. Chuck, First time here. Nice. Been sub for a while, not in chat. I feel your ego is in every aspect of the self from mind to root. Thank you. Namaste. Yeah, I mean, mind is tied into the human experience, which would tie your ego into it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's just about not becoming entangled. Not becoming entangled. Using your ego for your free will, you know, to have your own unique experience, to make your own decisions and think for yourself. That's healthy. That's healthy. You don't want to think like somebody else. You want to think for yourself, make your own decisions, have your own discernment, all that stuff. And ego and mind is tied into that. So this whole idea of killing your ego and stuff like that, I mean, that is, it's misinformative. It's disinformative. Shan. Too much. That's what I hope so. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Okay, next slide. Add to stage. Okay. Media assets. Continuing now. Okay. Let's see. We read all this, but not, yes, we read that. Okay. The ground of being. Next slide. I really like that picture and those words. I think they really go together well. I'm happy with that. Okay. Page 40, the liberated view beyond division. For the world is not an illusion of the mind in the sense that to the eyes of the liberated man, there is nothing to be seen but a trackless void. He sees the world that we see, but he does not mark it off, measure it, or divide it in the same way. That's the entanglement. He does not look upon it as really or concretely broken down into separate things and events. He sees that the skin may just as well be regarded as what joins us to our environment. Do you see that concept as what separates us from it? Can you see that? How your skin, it both separates you from the environment, but it's also one with it. You see? Just like your organism, you are one with the earth. You need gravity, right? You need air pressure. You need heat and warmth. You need oxygen, right? And these are all provided by the earth, its atmosphere, the sun, and these dynamics that are going on in the material world. You see, and you are one with those, because without an earth, you don't exist. You see, you need these elements, these characteristics of the material world to exist, and that's beautiful. There's no need to detach from that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's the wonder that you're in. Okay. He does not look upon it as really or concretely broken down into separate things and events. He sees that the skin may just as well be regarded as what joins us to our environment as what separates us from it. He sees furthermore that the skin will be considered as joining only if it has been first considered as separating, or vice versa. There you go. Thus, his point of view is not monistic. He does not think that all things are in reality one, because concretely speaking, there never were any things to be considered one. To join is as much Maya as to separate. This is where it gets kind of nutty, and you guys are seeing that. For this reason, both Hindus and Buddhists prefer to speak of reality as non-dual rather than one, since the concept of one must always be in relation to that of many. I'm sure you guys can follow that. The doctrine of Maya is therefore a doctrine of relativity. It is saying that things, facts, and events are delineated not by nature, but by human description, and that the way in which we describe or divide them is relative to our varying points of view. And we've been talking about that. It is easy to see, for example, that an event called the First World War can only rather arbitrarily be said to have begun on August 4th, 1914, and to have concluded November 11, 1918. Historians can discover actual beginnings of the war long before and resumptions of the same strife long after these formal boundaries of the event. For events can divide and merge like blobs of mercury according to the changing fashions of historical description. The boundaries of events are conventional rather than neutral, in the sense that a man's life is said to have begun at the moment of parturition rather than at conception on the one hand, or weaning on the other. Okay, similarly, it is easy to see the conventional characteristic of things. This all makes great sense. The liberated one sees the world, but without pressuring, measuring, or dividing it into concrete things. Like we just said, joining presupposes separating. Skin joins or separates, depending on perspective. You guys can see that. Neither monism, all one, nor dualism, multiplicity, holds, as things never exist concretely. Reality is non-dual, not one, implying many. So Maya is relative to a singular, undifferentiated essence. True reality, top right, true reality isn't a one that could be part of a larger set, which would allow for many things. Instead, it's non-dual. Beyond divisions, the world we see, Maya, is a relative shifting phenomena that hides or veils this singular essence, but it's not independent. It is rooted in that essence. You see there? What it's getting at here, let's get rid of this. What it is getting at here is when you say all is one, just picture this in your mind. When you say all is one, you're inferring that there's many because you're saying all is one. Well, in order to have all one, there's an inference. There's a reference to many because you're saying one. And what the Hindu, the Buddhist wants you to understand is it's not even appropriate to say all is one because it infers many. All that Alan's trying to do here is help you understand there's a larger and larger and larger concept every time you try to put into words. And case in point, when I say all is one, I'm already inferring that there are many by saying that all is one. Do you see? This is the wonder that we're in, the craziness that is reality. Human descriptions delineate and will vary by viewpoint. History is relative. So events like the Stone Age and the Renaissance also have arbitrary bounds. And here's the key line, and historians shift them fluidly to fit the fashion of the day. And here you see science. What have they done with Göbekli Tepe? What have they done? They have stopped all excavation because as they excavate, it's destroying their narrative. Remember, the historian, the scientist are moored, are anchored in belief, not faith, in belief. And so they have a belief system, namely the archaeologist, whereby they think that any human being that was around before the Greco-Roman era, meaning basically the Stone Age beforehand, right? Any human being was basically an idiot. Had basic rudimentary tools, didn't have much to work with, had low intellect, wasn't all that bright, kind of just beyond monkey, right? And the reason why they don't want Göbekli Tepe seen, because it shows that they actually knew all the constellations, the stars, the universe already. Long before the history claims have been established, meaning that there was this science and technology and availability and ability and awareness that science and the historian doesn't want to admit. And so they're covering up Göbekli Tepe and these other sites and the true use of the pyramids. They're covering all that up because they don't want their beliefs destroyed. And so they'll make every excuse in the book that they can think of to keep that truth. Remember how the Hindu is always trying to destroy the truth in the Westerner. The Western scientist wants to destroy that truth that's in Göbekli Tepe because it kills the narrative. This is how belief destroys you. Because when you become entangled in it, you can't grow. And so all those scientists and historians are not growing because they refuse to uncover a deeper truth. This is the problem of every religion, every Western religion. The religionists refuse to uncover anything but the stuff that coincides with the history they've been taught, with the experience that has been put into their head, the beliefs that have been put into their head. And they don't want that removed. They don't want it taken away from them. And do you see how? Right here, right there. and historians shift them fluidly to fit the fashion of the day. And what is the religionist doing? They're fitting the current world events right now into their presuppositions. So they're going to force fit what's happening right now into a tribulation, because that's what the believer thinks. And so because there's no other future but a tribulation to come in the believer's mind, they will not accept a great awakening whereby humanity becomes exonerated or works into a partnership where, in other words, we're not destroyed. The world doesn't end. We emerge and grow out from the detritus that we have been in, namely the belief systems that have kept us from growing. Do you see? The believer, the religionist, is entangled in belief, and so they can't escape. And so they are their own anxiety. They create their own frustration, and they create their own mis and dis-development because they're convinced, because they're holding, and they won't release. You see? So there can't be growth. Things, too, are conventional. A human is one organism physiologically, yet sociologically part of a group. Watts points out that nature's forms arise independently, like solid defining space. So grasping them as separate is Maya's trick. This deepens the truth. Liberation sees through conceptual nets, echoing the Tao's flow over Western linearity, dismantling illusions of a fixed self-identity. Do you see how deep this stuff goes, guys? I mean, do you see how far-reaching? I mean, it's epic. How far-reaching and how deeply it touches your life and realizing who you are and what you're in. Because this stuff is showing you a depth of the world that no Western science or religion could ever show you. Because it's based on non-clinging, and the entire Western world is based on clinging. Okay. Fix self-identity. Okay, so we're done there. Next slide. Here. Impermanence and grasping. Ordinarily, a human organism is counted as one thing, though from the psychological standpoint, it is as many things as it has parts or organs, and from the sociological standpoint, it is merely part of a larger thing called a group. Certainly, the world of nature abounds with surfaces and lines, with areas of density and vacuity, which we employ in marking out the boundaries of events and things. But here again, the Maya doctrine asserts that these forms, rupa, have no own being or self-nature. They do not exist in their own right, but only in relation, here it is, in relation to one another, as a solid cannot be distinguished save in relation to a space. In this sense, the solid and the space, the sound and the silence, the existent and non-existent, the figure and ground are inseparable, interdependent or mutually arising, and it is only by Maya or conventional division that they may be considered apart from one another. Indian philosophy also thinks of rupa or form as Maya because it is impermanent. Indeed, when Hindu and Buddhist texts speak of the empty or illusory character of the visible world, of nature as distinct from the conventional world of things, they refer precisely to the impermanence of its forms. Form is flux, and thus Maya, in the slightly extended sense that it cannot be firmly marked down or grasped. Form is Maya when the mind attempts to comprehend and control it in the fixed categories of thought, that is, by means of names, nema, and words. For these are precisely the nouns and verbs by means of which the abstract and conceptual categories of things and events are designated. To serve their purpose, names and terms must of necessity be fixed and definite like all other units of measurement, but their use is up to a point so satisfactory that man is always in danger of confusing his measures with the world so measured, of identifying money with wealth, fixed convention with fluid reality, but to the degree that he identifies himself in his life with these rigid and hollow frames of definition, he condemns himself to the perpetual frustration of one trying to catch water in a sieve. Freaking brilliant. And I just mapped it out for you. This is going to explain it all right here. This is the best slide of the night, in my opinion. Impermanence and grasping. Nature's surfaces and lines mark forms, rupa, but they lack self-nature, existing only rationally, like sound needing silence. Now, guys, I'm going to show you this map, and this is going to clarify the world of words to you. Forms are maya due to impermanence, anitya. They are flux, ungraspable, when mind fixes them via names, nema, and categories. Names, like measures, risk confusing a map with a territory, money with wealth, convention with reality, the menu with the dinner. Clinging to definitions frustrates reality, like clinging to words frustrates the territory. Now look at the map on the right here. The map is not the territory, but some maps are more likely to get you from A to Z than others. Now look, on the left, that's absolute authentic reality. That's the territory, okay? Authentic reality, the territory, right there on the left. That territory, that absolute authentic reality, enters through the senses, right there, top middle. And what happens is it gets filtered, distorted, and delineations are formed by the mind. That's the interpersonal reality. That's you. That's the map. Inside your head is a map of authentic reality, and it is not authentic reality because it's coming through your senses. You see? And so it's being shaped by your senses, by how your senses operate. And that then forms a map in your head. And then what happens? You spell out the world in words. This is how I'm showing you right here, clear as day. The authentic world is not words and can't be put into words. That's why the world of words made by the religionist is inauthentic, folks. The only way you can experience the authentic territory itself is right there initially through your senses. And even then, you're still getting a tainted view. But the most authentic view, perspective you can have is right there through your senses. But once it enters your mind, once you say it, once you try to define it, right, what has happened? You blaspheme it. You blaspheme it. Because the world is not composed of words. It doesn't fit into words. You see, you're mistaking the territory for the map in your head. You have the authentic territory, and then you have the map that is in your head, which is not the authentic territory. It's a translation. And then from that translation, you speak words, which is a second translation from what you authentically experienced in the authentic world. Do you see how words then cannot get you there? Religion cannot get you there. It's not going to get you there because it's full of words. Only your experience and your discernment, that which is inside of you, your heart, can get you there. Do you see? You will not get there in words. This map, that's why I'm so excited about this slide, is this map makes it plain as day why words are a very bad translation, a very weak, inadequate translation of the territory. And it shows you right here in 3D why that's the case. So you change your map. In other words, change your mind, you change the world. This is why it's so easy to change the world. It's simply a matter of changing your mind. Changing your perspective of who you think you are. Changing your perspective of what you think the world is. Because if you think the world is a sin and atonement enterprise and that we're all heading to doom and tribulation, that's exactly what the world will be. And it will never escape that because that's the way you tell it. This is why the world doesn't fit into words and should never be defined in words, finally. You see, this makes it so clear. Watts extracts some meat here. Pursuing permanence reveals ghosts in the same way pursuing void reveals Brahman. That's poignant. Transience signals divinity, not chaos. The grasping, holding mind becomes suffering, while the changing, flowing mind becomes ecstasy. poetry's poignant impermanence. This is a direct counter to nihilism. Emptiness is liberating vibrancy, paralleling the insight that religion, a grasping enterprise, shrinks or annihilates reality, while Zen expands or grows reality via tolerance, change, and flow. And tolerance, change, and flow are available to the mind that has changed. As long as that interpersonal reality stays stone and moored and unchanging, tolerance, change, and flow will flee from you, friend. And when you live in a wonder, that's called purgatory. That's called prison. Flow is the only way. Aligning, amalgamating to the flow. There's no words, there's no directions, there's no path. There is a flow. You see, and your senses will help you sensitize to that flow so that you remain appropriate to your environment. Okay, let's see if you guys got any questions. We're on page 43. Comments. Man, every time I go back to comments, it's only been like 10 minutes and there's another 150 comments. This is incredible. Okay. Yeah, good. Very good, Barbara. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Hey, Chuck, off subject. I love when you animate your logo. Badass. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm thinking about playing the prelude for the postlude, but I'm not sure yet. Syncretism. Where'd it go? Here. Syncretism and the repurposing of arcane principles and practices. Why did I just experience deja vu? That's really weird. I just had a massive, and I'm having it right now. I feel like I've been here before. Why am I having that feeling right now? Right when your question came up, Bill, I'm having this incredible feeling of deja vu right now. Why is that? That's really weird. Like I feel like I've been right in this spot before. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. Any questions good here? That's good words here, King. The best thing to keep reminding ourselves, we have no, excuse me, we have no control over each person's time, no matter how much it makes no sense. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, dude. Bro, I just had the biggest feeling of deja vu. Like, it was crazy, that Shakespeare Macbeth and then Bill's name. And seeing Bill, and for some reason that Shakespeare Macbeth there and the red writing, I was like, okay, this is weird. Like, I've been here before. Like, this is weird. That was really weird. I don't know what happened with that. I don't know what's going on. Here we go. Does flow ease the state of calm and connection? It can and can't. It can in the sense that when you're flowing with things, there's a sense of peace. But at the same time, if your life is total freaking chaos and you're getting hit left and right with bad news or whatever, you're in the flow, but it's pretty tough. And that's when you want that, you want to experience that feeling of being nonplussed. Is that when your flow becomes chaotic and rapids and crazy, you remain nonplussed, but fully engaged. You're not trying to escape the rapids. You're not trying to get out of life, but you're realizing and experiencing, okay, it's really painful right now. This hurts. There's nothing wrong with that. You're just navigating the flow. So yes, you absolutely can have that calm and connectiveness. Absolutely. No matter the state, but just because you're in flow doesn't mean you're not going to get the craziness. It will happen. It's just a matter of remaining nonplussed. Yeah. It was crazy. It was really weird, Gretchen. It was a very strong feeling I had, and it was eye-opening for me. And I don't know what just happened, but it was something. There was something that happened when I brought that slide up and Bill's name was there. I don't know what that was, but that and this Shakespeare Macbeth thing made me think, I don't know. It's weird. What is this? I wrote a blog a few days ago and Chuck repeated the headline I used. Oh, sweet. What was the headline? I would love to know what it was. What does this mean, Kogi? I wasn't surprised to see Chuck for the first time. I've seen him before. I know him before. From where, love? Where do I know you from before? I would love to know where you know me from before. And I would love to know that I knew you before. That'd be cool. When you get the deja vu, do you also get the spatial awareness of simultaneously being in two places with two point of views? Almost. It was about that strong, yes. That deja vu I just had was one of the strongest I've ever experienced in my life. Many different kinds of deja vu. Yeah. Yeah. What I just experienced, it was almost an out-of-body experience. It was so strong. Like, it came up, Bill's name came up, and I was like, am I sitting here? What is happening? Where am I? It was really wild. And it was like I had been here before. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I would love to do that. That's a really great idea. One of the things I've always wanted to be a really good carpenter. I have a few carpentry skills, but I have a lot of work to do. But that's one of the things I've wanted to do as I get older. If I ever get to the point where I can't get around very well, but I can walk around a wood shop, I would definitely like to learn better carpentry. Yeah, I definitely felt the spirit, Gretchen. There's no doubt about it. When I got that deja vu, it was a high. It was profound. It was a big deal. If Chuck starts tap dancing, we shifted into the wrong timeline. Very true. You don't want to see me tap dance. Everyone will leave. Yeah, you don't want to see me dance. No, I don't want to scare everybody away. No, I didn't. I probably could have, Shan, but I didn't. But it was heavy, dude. It was heavy. Like, I still kind of got an afterglow with it. It was pretty heavy. It's the strongest deja vu I've ever experienced. That's crazy. Now, see, that Mother Nature, that makes me think it was something. It was something. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I definitely feel something now. I don't know what it was. True that, Bill. Though I was teased all the time with that because of my name growing up. When we dream, our spirit goes out of our bodies, probably. But I'm not sure. Have not done enough research on that, Cindy, to give you a direct answer to that. But could be. I don't know if every night, but could be. I do know that out-of-body experiences, traveling to the Akashic field, traveling forward and back in time. I mean, I think those are very doable with your mind because your mind doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist. So it would be easy to do that once you develop the skill to have an out-of-body experience. I know that there's a lot of, there were a number of soldiers that were POVs that became master meditators because they were in prison for so long, and they became these incredible meditators when they were, well, stuck in a cell for 24 hours a day. Okay. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Gretchen, you're so funny. You guys are crack up, man. No, dude, no, you don't want to see me dance. I'm telling you right now. You don't want to see that. Okay, should we go to the next slide? Should we keep moving on? We got about 30 minutes left. How about if I do like 15 more minutes of reading and then we go back to chat? Okay. Let's go to media assets here. Add to stage. Let's see what we got. We got 42. Let's see. This is 42. Is that this slide here? 44. Nope, that's not it. It's 42. Is it this one? 42. 40. Nope, it's not that one either. So it's this one. Yeah, and the root of Buddhism. Okay. So we've got a few to go. I was really wanting to get to that anxiety one. Let's see what we can do. Thus, Indian philosophy speaks constantly of the wisdom of pursuing things, of striving for the permanence of particular entities and events, because it sees in all this nothing more than an infatuation with ghosts, with the abstract measures of the mind. Maya is then usually equated with the nama rupa, or the name and form, with the mind's attempt to grasp the fluid forms of nature. In this mesh of fixed classes. Sorry, let me read that again. I read that wrong. Maya is then usually equated with nama rupa, or name and form, with the mind's attempt to grasp the fluid forms of nature in its mesh of fixed classes. That's a good way to put it, Alan. Thank you for that. But when it is understood that form is ultimately void in the spatial sense of ungraspable and immeasurable, the world of form is immediately seen as Brahman rather than Maya. And this is when you see through the dualism. Let me explain this. This is when you see those patterns in the world, which is Maya, but you see the patterns, and those patterns render the truth. Those patterns in the Maya render the deeper truth past the Maya. As that truth is surfacing and it comes through the Maya, which is your experience, it's as it surfaces, if it's truth, it's going to render itself in patterns. And this is where he just was saying right there, you see Brahma, you see God in all things, because you see this infusion within the multiplicity, within the oneness, and you see the depth past those things. This is rendering to you God, essentially, everywhere you look. And that's what it's pointing towards, is saying that this is a healthy way to live, because you see through the veil at all times. The former world becomes the real world in the moment when it no longer is clutched, in the moment when its changeful fluidity is no longer resisted. Remember the thought, no resistance, the ball in the mountain stream. Hence, it is the very transitoriness of the world which is the sign of its divinity, as I just explained, of its actual identity with the indivisible and immeasurable infinity of Brahman. And as you guys know, in order to have a 2D, a 3D reality, there must be the death of oneness. This is metaphoric, right? And in order for that multiplicity to understand oneness, there must be a death of the multiplicity. What's the commonality here? What's the common theme? Both are representation of the deeper profundity of Brahman, of God. That's the point. It's not one or the other. Both represent, and more importantly, both are represented past each of their own. So the profundity is even past the oneness, past the multiplicity. These are just rendering it to you, but there's something behind them. You see, past words that is pushing these things forward, that brings these things forward, that brings about the growth, that brings about the animating factor. And that's that void darkness ineffable, right? That underlies, that is behind the oneness and the multiplicity. That's what he's pointing towards. This is why the Hindu-Buddhist insistence on the impermanence of the world is not a pessimistic or nihilistic doctrine, which Western critics normally suppose it to be. Transitoriness is depressing only to the mind, which insists upon trying to grasp, or the mind that sees things as in conflict, the mind that sees one side has to win. Do you see? That is also depressing, because you're choosing sides, and when you're trying to choose sides in a wonder, you see, you are blaspheming the side you're not choosing. Do you see? And that's depressing. It's inappropriate. But to the mind which lets go and moves with the flow of change, which becomes, in Zen Buddhist imagery, like a ball in a mountain stream, the sense of transience or emptiness becomes a kind of ecstasy. This is perhaps why in both East and West, impermanence is so often the theme of the most profound and moving poetry, so much so that the splendor of change shines through even when the poet seems to resent it the most. And this from Macbeth: tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools. The way to dusty death, out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. In sum, then, the Maya doctrine points out, firstly, the impossibility of grasping the actual world in the mind's net of words and concepts, and secondly, the fluid character of those very forms which thought attempts to define. The world of facts and events is altogether nama, abstract names, and rupa, fluid form. It escapes both the comprehension of the philosopher and the grasp of the pleasure seeker, like water from a clutching fist. Brilliant. There is even something deceptive in the idea of Brahman as the eternal reality underlying the flux, and of Atman as the divine ground of human consciousness. For insofar as these are concepts, they are as incapable of grasping the real as any other. It is precisely this realization of the total elusiveness of the world which lies at the root of Buddhism. This is the special shift of emphasis which, more than anything else, distinguishes the doctrine of the Buddha from the teaching of the Upanishads, which is the raison d'etre for the growth of Buddhism as a distinct movement in Indian life and thought. And that is exactly what I was just explaining, the fact that the Buddhist understands that there is no self, that there is this motivating factor behind the self, which is even behind Brahma and Atman, which is what the Hindu individual believes. And the Buddhist is coming along saying, actually, the Brahma, the multiplicity, the one, these are all also inadequate for that which is past, even those ideas, even those contrasts. That's the deeper principle. And this is where the Buddha was saying, you guys have missed it, you Hindis, you've missed it because you're identifying the Brahma as the thing, and that's not the thing. The thing is outside any words, past any words. It's that, just, you see? And so that's what Watts is pointing towards here. For Gautama, the awakened one, or Buddha, lived at a time when the major Upanishads were already in existence, and their philosophy must have been seen as the point of departure for his own teaching. Exactly what I just said. It should be a serious mistake, however, to look upon the Buddha as the founder or reformer of a religion which came into being as some kind of organized revolt against Hinduism. Obviously, it's not. For we are speaking of a time when there was no consciousness of religions, when such terms as Hinduism or Brahmanism would have meant nothing. And again, this is before there were any of these isms. And so this is what the Buddha is pointing towards, in that even calling the oneness Brahma, even calling your soul the Atman, even that is inadequate for the truth. Got it? I think that makes complete sense. And we are just about done. We will finish with this slide right here. This will be our last slide tonight. I will have to get to the anxiety stuff next week. Doggone it. Okay. Page 42, 43, embracing transience and the root of Buddhism. Maya equates to nema rupa, the mind's veil traps, named form. Ungrasped form equals Brahman. Transience is the divine mark. Duality is the keynote of unity. You see, they work together. Watts summarizes Maya here. The ungraspable words defies words, concepts, while fluid forms elude definition. Even Brahman or Atman are concepts that deceive, like I just said. This elusiveness birthed Buddhism, distinguishing it from the Upanishads. And again, guys, this is one of the differentiating factors to help you understand how these things came about. Buddha, who died in 545 BC, post-Upanishads, wasn't a reformer revolting against Hinduism, as those religions didn't even exist. Buddhism is a seamless tradition of Vedic life knowledge, a conversation, not a religion. As Rishi, a Hindu sage, Buddha abandoned the householder life, his caste, for liberation traditionally, not revolutionarily. Elusiveness awakens, words cage, grasping creates frustration, and awakening penetrates Maya. The pro tip for the night, a graspable God disqualifies said God. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about that? That's a really good parting moment for us tonight. A graspable God disqualifies said God. Good words, good words. Let's go to comments and let's wind the evening up for tonight. Thank you so much. Yes, you can email me here. Show there. You can email me here yahoo.com. Contact Chuck Jr. at yahoo.com. This is my email. And if you have questions, I have a get together every week on Fridays to basically discuss Zen or anything that's on your mind, anything that's up, that's concerning you. And you can come to that. It's free and it's a private meeting. There's usually about 40 of us that are there. And we meet every Friday at 1 o'clock Seattle time. And you're welcome to come. Just email me and I'll send you an invitation. We meet on Zoom. So you have to, it's one of the ways we keep the trolls out. So you have to get a link from me every week. And I'll put you on my little list and I'll send you a link every week and you can come. And you can ask questions to me personally. You can come right on and talk to the group. You can share your thoughts, feelings, whatever. But it's basically sort of a specialized study time for people that want to take this sort of thing to the next level. Sort of like a class that meets after a university class. And the professor offers a session for the students to come in and ask him personal questions or her questions. That's what it's for. So you can come on in, ask anything you want. And we meet every week at 1 o'clock on Zoom. Just shoot me an email and I'll put you on the list and I'll send you an invite. No problem at all. Okay. Any questions? Hey, what's up, Malcolm? Just wanted to pop in and say hi, Chuck. Hello. So great for everything you do for all of us. Thanks, brother. You're welcome. Glad to be here. Glad to do it. Yes, very good words here, Stacy. To get invited to the Zoom, we meet every week at 1 o'clock. You're welcome to come. We meet at 1 o'clock on Zoom, yeah, and then we meet here on Saturdays. I'm going to try to get the Facebook thing fixed so that I can be on Facebook because I was really bummed. I thought I'd be on Facebook today. So I'm going to get that worked out. Chuck, how do you do it? Opening a portal into the eternal now every Saturday night. I cannot fathom 3 hours has gone by. Sweet, dude. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's beneficial to you, man. That's fantastic. That makes me so incredibly happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. My inner spirit recognizes and validates your inner spirit, Chuck. And Chuck's chat, you all are beautiful. Heck yeah, Clueless. And my inner spirit recognizes and validates your inner spirit, love. For sure. Side pigeon, buddy, what's going on? You're welcome. I'll look forward to seeing you on Friday. I love seeing you there, Side Pigeon. You've been there since the beginning, buddy. Love it. Good times. Chuck, your spirit has been on tonight. Our spirits are all connecting. Heck yeah, Gretchen. It's been a great night, and that deja vu thing has really thrown me for a loop, man. And the fact, I'm telling you, how wild is it that a few of you in chat experienced it with me? That was wild. What was that? Do you have any idea what that was? I wonder what that was. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, Flat. Zach, I'm glad to hear it, that it makes some sense, man. Yeah, for sure. It seems like we had a bunch of new people with us tonight. Welcome. Welcome to all the newbies. You're welcome to be here. Absolutely. You're welcome. And please come to Zoom on Fridays. We'd love to have you there. We'd love to have you there. It's a little family. We don't record. I don't record anything. Nothing gets recorded. I recorded the Zooms in the beginning, but I've stopped doing that. And I've erased everything that I recorded because it's too personal. It's too private of a time. And it's really sort of like a family powwow kind of a thing. And so we don't record them. And I don't put any of that video out anymore. All that stuff is not going to be posted at all. So that people have a trust. When they come to Zoom, they know they can trust the situation and then they can say what they want to say. Yes, the veil is thinning, Craig. It is. Yes, possibly. Can you Clueless? No, keep them up. That's funny. I'm ready for my dopamine to drop. That's funny. You're welcome, Linda. Thanks, Chuck. I feel grateful to be here. All your content is so good. You even helped me to be more zen. Sweet for a Ills yoga teacher. Namaste. Awesome. And I love your pup. I love your puppy on there. I miss my dog so much. Someday I'll get dogs again for sure. Deja vu, in my opinion, is a form of expansion of your extra senses. Oh, Twilight Mist. Very good. Let's see what you have to say. It's a form of expansion of your extra senses, like you are experiencing your extrasensory muscles stretch in the moment to know that you're more and can do more than the normal. Heck yeah. Very good. For sure. Heck, y'all. Love to everybody. For sure. Thank you, Stacy. Newbies get in the communities with us if you're feeling it. Yes, Stacy runs a Discord and also a Telegram. If you're into Discord and Telegram, Stacy and her team are all there, and it's a great group. I'm not a part of it because I don't have time. I would totally do it, but I just no way. There's absolutely no way I could do it with the amount of time I spend on these slides. There's no way. Awesome. Glad you're here. Glad you made it live. We're glad to have you. We're going to probably end a little bit early here. I'll play the prelude again to finish us to 8. Very good. Love you too, Leon. Thank you for being here. Love you too. Love you too. Here we go. I was a skeptic of the supernatural, but started to believe in clones and White Walkers. Couldn't believe Candace Owens talked about Charlie Kirk as a time travel, referencing CERN and Project Looking Glass. Yeah, that kind of stuff is leaking out. You're welcome, Michael. You're welcome. Oh, sorry, Stacy. I thought you did. You run Telegram. Sorry. Stacy is not in charge of Discord. That is Telegram is her baby. It tells you how much I know. I don't know because I don't go to those groups. I don't have time. You're welcome. Okay, we will finish out here with our words from Rupert and Alan. For some of you that didn't get to hear it and want to see it, I'll go ahead and play that again. And if the Discord link didn't work, please contact Stacy, and she knows how to get to the Discord and all that stuff. Are we good? Any last questions? Any parting words before we go? I'm going to pray the prelude again, so it's going to be about 22 minutes after I leave that you guys can hang out and chat and chill. Very good. Good night, Zensters. Heck yeah. Good night, everybody. Y'all be easy. Awesome. We'll see you later, Craig. Thanks for being here. You're welcome, Catlin. Thanks for being here. Love your input, Catlin, and I love it. You're always here. Thank you so much, for sure. Okay, I'll play the prelude, or I'll play the postlude now, and you guys can hang out and chat and do your thing. I am heading over to Media Assets, and we'll play the video, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, and just so you know, I forgot to do this. Okay, so just so you know, if you're interested in the embroidery stuff, just so you know, if you want a hoodie, here they are. This is finished. This is finished. This is the front. This is the front. Here's your pockets in the front. There's little pockets here. And there's no strings for the hood. Okay? And then this is what the back looks like, and it's absolutely gorgeous. That's embroidery. As you can see, it's all embroidered. Okay? And this is the hoodie. And as you can see, my seamstress is so awesome. She mounted this low so that you could see this, and the hood didn't get in the way. Now, if you get a quarter zip, it's mounted a little bit higher. You see, the quarter zip is a little bit higher. If I even out the collars, you see that's a little higher, and it's a little higher because there's no hood. But again, gorgeous embroidery. Now, if you are interested in any of these, in the embroidery stuff, shoot me an email. We ran into a brick wall with the t-shirts and what we were going to do with the t-shirts. And so I'm going to have to work it out with Stacy, what we're going to do with the t-shirts to get these out, because these are awesome. This is one of the t-shirts. It says Nature Creature on the side, and it's got the insignia on the back, as you can see, or the logo on the back. Okay, so we're going to figure it out. We're going to get t-shirts available and yoga pants available. A pleat has become a dead end, so we're going to figure something else out. But right now, if you want swag, you can order swag. And these are available if you are interested. Just shoot me an email. This is all hand embroidered. They're $300 delivered to your door. And got the first orders in. They're going to be arriving next week, and I will mail them, or this coming week. And I will mail them this coming week, probably on Friday or Saturday. And yeah, if you're interested, just let me know and we can get you one ordered. What we're still working on getting the t-shirts and yoga pants available. I'm working on a solution. Apologies. So that's it for today. I'll see you guys next week. I'll pray the prelude, and thanks for being here so much. And I really appreciate the time. And thank you for your kind words today. You guys had some very kind things to say to me today, and I really appreciate it very much. And I love and care about each of you very much. And I'm thankful that you're here and we're on this journey together. We'll continue to grow and learn together. And I'm looking forward to the future with you for sure. Okay. I'll see you guys next week. Here's the postlude. Love you guys. See you next week.
sense of time when we're sleeping.
Why do we?
Lose sense of time when we're sleeping.
Why do we lose sense of time when we're sleeping? Try now. You understand what I mean by now. Yeah. And if we represent the past, we could imagine that the past is like a vast space that extends endlessly behind the now, and that the future is a vast space that extends indefinitely in front of the now. Yes? And the distance between the past and the future is what we call time. Yes? Or the distance between two events in the past or the future. So now let's explore time, the past and the future. So now just for a few moments, leave the now and visit this place that you call the past. When I say visit it, I don't mean just think about it or imagine it, because if you think about it, say you take the image of breakfast this morning. That image doesn't take place in the past. That image takes place now. So I don't mean just think about the past or imagine the past. I mean go there. Leave the now, just step out of the now and go into the past.
That's not possible.
Okay.
Because if I try to step into the past, that effort is happening now.
Exactly. So can anyone here, just while we're discussing, can anyone here step out of the past and just step out of the now and visit the past, just for a few moments? No. Can you imagine, Alexander, that anybody that has ever lived, not just us kind of weirdos that are interested in non-duality, but regular people that could you imagine that any of them could, just for a few moments, step out of the now and actually go to the place that we call the past?
No.
Okay, so if nobody's ever been there, and presumably the same applies for the future, yeah. So if nobody has ever been there, how do we know that this place called the past really exists? Surely experience must be the test of the existence of something. So if nobody's ever been there, nobody's ever got a glimpse of it, how do we know it's there?
We don't really.
We don't.
No.
We don't know it's there. We imagine it's there, but we don't know it's there. We have no knowledge of it at all. Could it be that it's not there?
Yes.
And wouldn't that be in line with our experience? In other words, could it be that the past and the future don't exist in the way that our minds imagine them?
Yes.
After all, have you ever experienced anything apart from now?
No.
And how many nows have you experienced in your life? Or let's just take today. How many nows have you experienced today?
That's a trick question. One.
One. Yeah, so all your life, you're only going to experience one now. Yeah.
Yes.
And that now, we've already discovered that, contrary to popular belief, the now is not this fraction of a moment sandwiched between these two vast spaces of the past and future. The vast spaces of the past and future aren't there. So now is not a moment in time. We normally think that the now is moving slowly through time. Yeah. How fast is the now moving through time in your experience? It's another trick question.
It's not moving.
It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. It hasn't come from anywhere, and it's not going anywhere. So this now is the only now there is. And this now is not a moment in time. How long does this now last?
It's eternal.
It's eternal. And you understand that by eternal doesn't mean everlasting in time. It means ever present now. So if we're just simple and we just stay with the facts of our experience, time is never experienced. Time is what the now looks like when it is filtered through our mind. In other words, time, it doesn't exist in our mind, it seems to exist in our mind. And therefore, if that's the case, wouldn't it make sense that when our mind disappears in sleep, the seeming existence of time disappears with it?
Yes.
That's why we don't experience time when we're asleep. Actually, we don't experience time when we're awake, but we seem to. But when we're asleep, we don't even seem to experience time because no mind is present in sleep. So that's why you seem to wake up in the same moment that you fall asleep, because there is no time in between two waking states or two dream states.
Okay. That's confusing, but it makes sense.
It's confusing, but it makes sense.
No, it's confusing, but it makes sense.
It's confusing, but it makes sense. Yes. Yes, it's... Exactly. It's confusing because we compare, because everything that I've said you've understood in your own experience and you've agreed with, and it's very simple what I've said if you just stick with your experience. But when we compare that with the way reality seems from the point of view of the mind, it conflicts with the mind's view of reality. So it is the mind that superimposes its own limitations on reality and makes reality appear in a way that is consistent with those limitations. Just as I said this morning, if you put on a pair of orange sunglasses when you're skiing, you very quickly forget that you've put the glasses on and the snow appears to be orange. You think the snow is orange. The snow is appearing in accordance with the limitations or the colouring of your glasses. But because you have forgot that you are looking through this limited medium, you think that the orange colour belongs to the snow. Now, each of our minds is a limited medium. Our minds are the orange glasses, but the orange colour is time and space. That's the tint of our minds, time and space. So when consciousness looks through the time and space glasses of our mind, it sees a three-dimensional, a four-dimensional world, 3 dimensions of time and 1 dimension of space. And we think time and space belongs to the world. No, it doesn't.
In the West, we inherit the idea of law from those ancient conceptions of God, and it is even passed down into science, where we discuss laws of nature. But one recognizes more and more in the sciences that what we call laws of nature are simply observed regularities in the way things behave. And you, in order to observe regularities, you must look at things through something regular. That is to say, you must lay a ruler alongside them, or compare their behavior with the regular behavior of a clock. But clocks and rulers are human inventions. They are regular measures which we use for comparing the rates of change. Say, a clock is a measure of a rate of change. It's quite arbitrary. But we very easily compare our regulation measuring devices with what makes things happen, as if the sun rises because it's 6 in the morning. That's being completely backwards in one's thinking. And we get into the same confusion when we imagine, for example, that money is wealth. Here we have fantastic wealth, you know, and we have the technological possibility of making everybody on earth the enjoyer of an independent income. We can't do it because people say, where's the money going to come from? Because they think money makes prosperity. It's the other way around. It's physical prosperity which has money as a way of measuring it. But people think money has to come from somewhere, like hydroelectric power or lumber or iron, and it doesn't. Money is something we invent, like inches. So you remember the Great Depression? When there was a slump? And what did we have a slump of? Money. There was no less wealth, no less energy, no less raw materials than there were before, but it's like you came to work on building a house one day, and they said, sorry, you can't build this house today, no inches. What do you mean no inches? No, just inches. We don't mean we got inches of lumber. Yes, we've got inches of metal. We've even got tape measures. But there's a slump in inches as such, you see. And people are that crazy. They can have a depression because they've got no inches to go around, or no dollars. That's all a lot of nonsense. But you see, because we get thinking backwards, making the metaphysical tail wag the dog, making the law rule things, whereas it doesn't. It's merely a way of measuring what happens. And so you see, when you get into Buddhistic thought, you don't get that confusion. You're the other way around. So you're looking at a system where, to go back to the Buddha's words, this arises, that becomes, which is a way of saying, you can't have this without that. You can't have here without there. You wouldn't know where here was unless you knew where there was. And they come into being together. You don't get first here and then there, or first there and then here. These arise interdependently. That's the meaning of interdependent origination. And to grasp the idea of interdependent origination is as important as the idea about seeing how things are related by space and intervals. And seeing, therefore, that you tend to look at life from a myopic point of view and see details, see the trees and not the forest, see yourself as something loosely related to everything else that's going on and not integral to it. You see the figure but ignore the background. But the figure and the background arise mutually. They are to each other as this is to that. And so we really have to rid our brains of the notion of causality. The notion of causality being that present sets of circumstances are the result of past sets of circumstances. And that therefore certain events which are called causes are responsible for following events called effects. And all this is an enormous piece of mumbo-jumbo. Because what is not seen and what is not clear in thinking that way is that in physical nature there are no separate events. This is startling to people. But it's really quite easy to see that there are no events in nature. Because you can ask very simply, let's take something called an event. how do we demark it from other events? At what point, shall we say, were you born? Were you born at parturition? Or when the doctor slapped you on the bottom? Or cut the umbilical cord? Or when you were conceived? Or when your father and mother were first attracted to each other? When was it? When did you begin? There's no way of deciding except arbitrarily. And for legal purposes, we say you were born at parturition. And that's when the astrologer casts your horoscope, except that other astrologers disagree and want the conception time. And say, that's the real beginning. There isn't a real beginning. It goes back and back and back in an inseparable continuity. When are you dead? That's another big argument. And you can get all kinds of ideas about that. So once you see that an event is a term in an intellectual calculus, calculus being the way of measuring, say, curved formations by reducing them to point instants and counting it, you see? But actually, the point instants are imaginary. The curve wiggles along, and it doesn't stutter from point to point. But in calculus, you make it do that. So, just as there are no point instants in the curve, so there are no events in nature. Nature is a constantly fluctuating pattern. You can only designate particular wiggles in a pattern arbitrarily. You can count a convex formation as one wiggle, or a concave formation as one wiggle. Then you decide if you call it one way, if you give the convex properties the title of wiggle, you have to deny it to the concave properties. And vice versa. So when you see that what we call separate events don't exist, it becomes nonsense to speak of one event causing another. What you really mean is that the two events which you speak of as being causally related are simply two parts of the same event. They go with each other in the same way as this with that. The relationship is not causal. It is mutual. And it works two ways in time, because so-called future events are not merely passive to past events. But you could easily see when, for example, any biological process goes on, you can reason just as well from the future to the past as from the past to the future. Why do two mammals have sexual intercourse? Well, it isn't just that they enjoy it. It's also that they're a very complex system which does this because it makes babies. And the prospect of baby works in reverse and creates desire. You can reason that way. Or it's silly. Because the whole process is one. And when we speak humanly and purposively, I am going downtown to buy groceries, then a future event could be said to be the cause of why you're now starting out to get into the car, buying groceries. And the difficulty we have in seeing this to be so is that we think in an either-or way, which is what is called dualism in Hindu-Buddhist thought, and that liberation is being free from dualism. So when you think in an either-or way, you see the figures in the background as moving, and therefore being responsible for their action. But if somebody argues the other way round and say the figures are just following lines of force in a field, Gravitational principles say. We're all human beings, you see. We're all concentrated on the fact that we're individually rushing around and doing this and that. But we don't see that we're equally sucked, and that we move around in response to all sorts of stimuli. But neither position is adequate. You have to see that our being sucked by all sorts of stimuli is exactly the same thing as our apparently voluntary and deliberate action. Because what we're looking at is not this Newtonian game of billiards, where balls roll because they are hit by cues. What we're involved in is a dance where, for example, watch a snake. When a snake swims, there's nothing more beautiful than watching a snake swim in water. Lovely motion. But you see, it wiggles along, and its wiggle is conceivable, you see, as convex, or was it concave? This way, and that way, and this way, and that way. Now, which side of the snake moves first when it wiggles? So it's very easy to see there. Now, when we interact with the world, what moves first? Who starts it? The objective world or the subjective world? But they are related as this to that. You can't have an object without a subject, or a subject without an object. You can't have something known without the knower. And that gives the show away. There isn't any real distinction between the knower and the known. There's two ways of looking at something, yes. Two poles of a single process. But the knower and the known are subsumed as the knowing. And all life is knowing. Being, becoming. And it isn't something, in other words, that works by the idea of all this happens because someone shoves it. Now you see, the idea all this happens because someone shoves it is basic to Western thinking. There is the Lord God who's the boss. And he sloshes this universe into being and shoves it and sets it going. And you better obey that shove, because he's introduced into it some recalcitrance by giving to human beings what the Hebrews call the Yetzer Hara, the wayward spirit, so that they shall be able to play certain games on their own. Because nothing very interesting would happen if everybody obeyed God. The whole world would be like a lifeless thing, you see? So they had to reason that into it in order to save face for God, practically. Because otherwise he could be blamed for all the catastrophes that happened, instead of our being able to say to each other, well, it's our fault.